for the Upper Darby Township Council Committee meeting, April 7th, 2021. If we can all stand, Mayor Keffer has the flag in her screen. So we can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. All right. So I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the
United States of America,
and
to the
republic
for which it
stands,
one
one
nation,
under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
And if you can remain silent, standing for a moment of silence for those who've been lost. Thank you. Great, thank you. So this meeting is officially open. Council Secretary Billups, can you give us a roll call?
Yes, Council President Wentz. Councilor Tunis.
Present.
Councilor Billups is here. Councilor Silva.
Here.
Councilor Blackwell. Here. Councilor Gwynn.
Present.
Councilor Burke.
Here.
Councilor Sadiq.
I saw him.
Yeah, he's here. Councilor Sadiq. He's here.
Is he frozen?
He might be.
Councilman Sadiq, if you can hear us, you appear to be frozen. You might need to hop out and hop back in.
Right, so I'll move on to Councilor Faralia. Here. Councilor Barnett.
Here.
Councilor Wagner.
Here.
And Council President Wentz.
Here.
All present and accounted for.
Great, thank you. Okay, next up we have, and also wanted to also point out that we have Mayor Keffer with us. We have CAO Rangione. We have Solicitor Kilkenny and Richardson. We have Township Engineer Mike Galante. We have our Finance Director, Gary Marin. We have our Municipal Clerk, Miss Chiquita. I still butchered her last name. Alexis, I will try and get her name right. We have Pat Scott. We have Timothy Kerr, Jen Bellin, Melissa Morales. We'll find out later why they're here and what they're going to share, what information they're going to share with us. We also have TWU Political Director Jeffrey Brooks here with us, and we will have someone else from TWU joining us shortly. It would be awesome if you let me finish my sentence. And Ms. Dobbins is running the technical side of our equation. And we have Eliza Moeller as well. Okay. All right. So next up, rules of meeting decorum. Upper Darby Township Council and residents will maintain professional respect for each other. Council encourages free speech, however, civility is required, which would prohibit threats, profanity, scandalous, impertinent, and redundant comment, or any comment the discernible purpose of which is to disrupt or prevent the conduct of the business of the meeting. Okay, at this point in time, we'd like to, Ms. Alexis, are you giving us the public forum?
Yes.
Okay. So if everyone can mute yourselves, Councilor Billups and myself will be doing the time. She's got the 2.5 minutes and I have the 3 minutes. So let me set up my timer. Okay. All right, and go.
The first comment is from Olivia Taylor, 204 Kent Road. I, along with other residents, have written into this administration concerning the homeless population in our township numerous times, and all responses were nothing more than excuses, or the blame is passed on to county council. Well, there is no more excuses or the blame to be passed on. This administration, as well as county council, both have received 2 stimulus packages, both have received millions in each package to help the homeless population, and nothing has been done. What are you doing with the money that was allotted to help the homeless population? Where is it, and what have you done with it? There are 2 organizations in our township that has helped this community tremendously: Tailor-Made Vets and Recovery Without Barriers. These people volunteer their time because they care, along with the help from the community that donate food, clothes, and blankets to help people who can't help themselves. Both of these organizations were out volunteering this past winter. There were nights when the temperature dropped below freezing. They were out there. To hear that someone from this administration has a problem with that is truly unacceptable. What is more frightening to me is to see the way Upper Darby Police Department, in parentheses, has been treated. These men and women who risk their lives daily to protect us and keep us safe should not be treated this way. They are riding around in banged up cars. Some have 2 officers in car that can barely run. What is going on here? The solicitor received $22,000 a month of our tax dollars for what? And yet the men and women who risk their lives, they also deal with the crime, mental health, domestic abuse, and host of other issues in our township, should not be patrolling in cars like this. This is wrong. Upper Darby is one of 6 biggest municipalities in the state of Pennsylvania. Fix this. This department deserves better. So does the residents. Enough with the excuses. I don't want to hear anything about the budget. This administration has taken away so much from our first responders, and it is an outright shame. End of comment.
Thank you. We will look into it and get back to you. Okay, and next.
Bradley Penn, 4012 Ellendale Road. I have a comment question around billing a township resident for fire department services on a motor vehicle accident. I live in the township and pay taxes. If I am involved in a motor vehicle accident in the township, why should I have my insurance company pay fire department services I already pay for as part of my taxes? If the intent is to not bill township residents, the ordinance should address this. End of comment. And that is the last public comment.
Oh, okay. Great. We will, I think the appropriate place to address Bradley Penn's question is when we discuss that ordinance. I believe the answer will be, it will be answered within that discussion. So I will just put a star next to it to remember to make sure that we clarify that question. Okay, great. So next up, we have the Honorable Mayor Barbara Ann Keffer. Take it away, Mayor.
You're muted, Mayor. Still muted.
There we go.
There you go.
Hi, and good evening to everyone. I have a couple of updates to share. Last week, I was pleased to swear in 9 new officers for the Upper Darby Police Department. They are Elijah Brown, Joseph Giardi, Kevin Joby, Nicholas Murakami, Dan Malarkey III, Mara O'Connell, Inderbeer Radawa, Matthew Terry, and Adam Wheatley. These officers come from the most qualified and diverse class in township history, and they will be a great addition to the department. I'm delighted and honored to welcome them into our Upper Darby team. And I would also like to acknowledge our Civil Service Commission, which played an important and behind the scenes part into making this a reality. We are currently working on several grants for Upper Darby, including a Keystone Facade Grant. We are applying for funding from the DCED that would offer small businesses street-facing exterior improvements such as painting, repointing, facade repair, or restoration and signage. The grant is for $50,000 with an equal match from the township. Due to limited funding, we would focus this program on the unit block of Garrett Road. We want to work on the kinks in the program, learn the system, and then expand the program to our other neighborhood business districts. I've personally visited many of the businesses on that block, and there's a lot of interest in and support for this initiative. We are also working on a community project funding request to Congresswoman Mary Gay Scanlon's office for the new Upper Darby Community Center. And yesterday, U.S. Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona visited Upper Darby High School and Beverly Hills Middle School as part of the Biden administration's efforts to support states, schools, students, parents, and educators as they navigate the return to in-person learning. Secretary and I talked about how the township and the school district have forged a strong working relationship over the past year and a few months to advance the district's capital plans for improvements, including the Aronimink Elementary expansion, as well as understanding and streamlining our shared services. We had some more good news this week. After fielding questions from SMP concerning some of the audit findings, as well as revenue forecasts in our COVID era, I am pleased to announce that the end effect is that S&P has granted us an A+ stable rating. It was an elongated process, and credit goes to CAO Vincent Rongioni and Finance Director Gary Marin for their diligent work on this. The Darby Creek Valley Association's annual cleanup will take place this Saturday, April 10th, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. There are at least 11 sites that need help in our township. Please visit dcva.org to register for a specific site. State Representative Mike Zabel will be heading the cleanup at Gillespie Park, and I will be heading a cleanup at what I call Naylor's Run South, across the street from the entrance to Naylor's Run Park. But there's plenty more places where people can volunteer, and it's a great way to get involved in the community. The Upper Darby Environmental Advisory Committee and Friends of Upper Darby Trails will hold a Learn and Hike event on Saturday, April 24th, in honor of Earth Day. There will be 3 separate hikes throughout the day, one along the recreation area trail beginning at 9 a.m., one at the Under Railroad Trail spur beginning at 1 p.m., and one at Naylor's Run Park Trail beginning at 6 p.m. More details can be found on the Environmental Advisory's Facebook page. Our new weekly yard waste collection service started this week and will continue until Friday, November 19th. It's a weekly collection. Yard waste will be collected on residents' regularly scheduled recycling pickup day. Yard waste is defined as leaves, grass residue, shrubbery, and tree trimmings, and similar material like weeds. Please note that grass clippings are not considered yard waste. Please do not use plastic bags to collect yard waste. Instead, place it in biodegradable paper bags which are available at our local hardware stores, including Burr Hill on Vermont Road and True Value on Marshall Road, as well as Home Depot and Lowe's. Or place your yard waste loosely in trash cans without bags. Finally, Upper Darby was selected as one of 20 municipalities in Pennsylvania to participate in the Department of Environmental Protection's 2021 Local Climate Action Plan, which matches local governments with college students to develop greenhouse gas inventories and climate action plans. I am pleased to introduce Melissa Morales and January Aline from Moravian College, who have been working with us this semester.
Hello, everyone. Can I just get confirmation that everyone can see my screen?
We can see you.
Okay, I'm screen sharing right now. Can you all see that?
No, we cannot.
I can, yes.
I can see it.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay, so why can only some people see it and not everybody?
Here, I can stop share and I can reshare it.
So I'm not.
Inability
I can
to
say
see
it.
the screen share could just be someone's personal settings. Melissa, in the interest of time, I would just say go ahead with your presentation.
Okay, no problem. Hello, everyone. My name is Melissa Morales, and I'm here presenting with Janeri Cabrera-Bellin. We are senior environmental science students from Moravian College, and we have been involved in creating a draft climate action plan for Upper Darby Township through local governments for sustainability. So a climate action plan is essentially a roadmap that will guide your township on all of the necessary steps to help you reduce your township's greenhouse gas emissions. A climate action plan is created once a greenhouse gas inventory has been completed. So once we have this information, we are able to focus on your township's different activities and plan on how to effectively reduce these emissions in the most cost-effective way possible. And we do this with the help from your community. So the climate action plan allows your community to make informed decisions and better understand greenhouse gas emissions and how to reduce them cost effectively. The climate action plan includes an implementation strategy that identifies the necessary resources and funding components. So climate change is caused by human activities, and it is threatening the way we live and the future of our planet. So by addressing climate change through a climate action plan, we can help build a sustainable world for not just your community here, but for everyone. And so taking climate action is really important because it helps negate negative impacts from the climate crisis. Climate action plans have significant benefits for communities, which include improving health, creating economic opportunities, and helping families to flourish. And so the image we're displaying here is actually directly from Upper Darby's greenhouse gas inventory. So as a task force, what we've been focusing on the most is residential energy, commercial energy, and transportation services. So Janeri and I have been focusing mostly on residential energy, and we're actually working on some community engagement that involves teaching the community different ways that they can save energy. So it's not just beneficial for the community as a whole, but it's really beneficial for each of you on a monthly financial basis.
So hi everyone, I'm Janeri Belen. I'm the other intern on this project. And something that's extremely important before even starting to write a climate action plan is to get that community engagement. We've been working on doing some surveys for the climate action plan just to gauge the timeline and the severity of climate action and how the citizens feel about a timeline or severity. We're also addressing climate hazards through these surveys to just get a better idea of how the township can properly help those that experience hazards. In community engagement as well, we are working on creating a climate advisory board that will conduct meetings. They will do future surveys. They're basically going to take over for me and Melissa and really proceed in making future decisions and develop future endeavors like You could even do like citizen science, things like that. So this climate advisory board will really get the ball rolling after we're done and continue to get the work done to work towards this climate action plan. It's really going to help ease some of the responsibilities from local government. So we're not only working on doing surveys, we're also doing multiple things to work towards the climate action plan. I wish it was as simple as just sitting down and opening up a Word document and just typing away. But these things take time. And I think really in the long run, we will have, or the township will have, a really incredible and solid climate action plan that will be easy to implement and feasible. It won't be things that will seem like they're not possible to do. So like I said before, we're developing climate action plan surveys. We're doing one survey that's specifically for climate action to get the opinions of those who live in the township to see what they think should be done and what should be implemented, as well as doing a survey that specifically targets hazards. So things like air pollution or extreme heat events that could affect those that live in the township are really important to consider when making a climate action plan, because down the road, the township will need to address these issues. So those are the surveys that we're talking about. So we also created some resources for the township. We have a couple of posters that you may see on like social media or the website, which is one of the posters is for the climate action plan, like promotion, and there's others for like Earth Day and different things like that. We're also still working on infographics. There's one infographic that's specifically for recycling. And in this infographic, it'll give information on what to recycle, what not to recycle, and how to properly recycle. The vulnerability assessments that we did with local government will basically show us what climate hazards are present in the township. And on the climate hazard survey, there are specific questions like, what is your address or what neighborhood do you live in? Because this data could be very useful in the future, where if the township knows where specific hazards are occurring, they can easily map out those hazards, and it can be easier to help address them and help citizens that are experiencing these hazards. Finally, Melissa has been working on the ICLEI forecasting, which is just the local government for sustainability organization that we're working with. And forecasting basically creates graphs that could show future emissions based on the action that you put into effect. So right now, I know she did one graph that shows just the stable emissions of what the township is producing in those areas she talked about before in commercial, residential, energy, and transportation. And as the township implements different things, like for example, putting in chargers for electrical vehicles, those graphs will reflect how those emissions will basically go up or down. So they're going to be extremely useful in the future for basically looking to see how certain changes could really make a big impact. So like I said before, the surveys, there's two of them, and they're basically, this is the first time we're kind of putting them out there. The first one is the climate hazard survey, and the second one is a climate action plan survey. And if you feel comfortable, you can put up your phone to the screen with your camera, and it should lead you to a browser page where the surveys come up. We will also put the links in the chat, so if you want to access it on your computer or your phone, then feel free to do that as well. The last form is just for questions and comments that anyone wants to let us know about the climate action plan, and possibly even just resources and what anyone thinks we should focus on, like important issues when it comes to climate change. Thank you.
So yeah, that was a really nice, concise presentation. I want to thank Belen and Melissa Morales for doing all the work that you're doing for us, because it's really something we don't have the capacity to do right now, because if you stay on for the rest of the meeting, you'll see a lot of other things that we're working on. But anyway, no, thank you very much. This is really important for us as we're trying to build the future of Upper Darby, right? So the things that we're trying to put in place now, the data that we're collecting, and this will go towards programming and policies and, in the future. So thank you very much.
Having us.
Thank you. Are you able to send us that presentation that you just gave? Can we get your PowerPoint for council?
Yes, absolutely. I can send it to Allison.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. That was a great presentation.
Yeah, really excellent.
Does anyone from council have any questions for Melissa or Engineering? Since you gave us this great presentation. Just want to make sure. Okay. All right. Then we're going to move forward. Thank you very much, ladies. So next up is actually me. I just wanted to congratulate Bill Ives of the Archer Epler VFW and American Legion's Post 979. They're in Upper Darby. They had an article or many articles on the Marching Pageantry Arts Museum collection that they have at their VFW on Marshall Road. And I also wanted to thank WHYY for doing an excellent article on our ordinance 3093 that repealed obscene materials, and to our legislators who in Pennsylvania who are taking on this issue to make changes to our criminal code. So I just wanted to acknowledge them, and also wanted to thank anyone and everyone who has come out to volunteer for cleanups over the past month. And I know that we have a lot more coming up in April and in honor of Earth Day. And I realize that Councilwoman Blackwell, I missed you. Did you have a question for these fine ladies on their presentation?
I did, and I had a question for our CAO regarding the rating. I just wanted for the constituents for him to explain.
As far as the ratings, let's discuss that later.
Okay.
Okay, the presentation, the questions were open for the presentation specifically.
Okay.
You can ask the rating question later, okay?
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so next up, so that's all I had. So next up, we have our committee reports, Law and Government Rules and Procedures Committee, co-chairs Billups and Silva, members Sadiq and Blackwell. We are, and I've also invited Jeff Brooks, TW Political Director, and George Bannon, Business Agent of TW Local 234, to join us this evening to give us some background, a small presentation on why the TWU supports the, I call it MOU, but there's a more memorandum of understanding for the new contract. So George and Jeff, please go ahead. You can turn your cameras on and. Jeff, I see you, but you're muted. You're muted.
Okay, George has the floor on the contract.
Okay, awesome. Hello, George.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thanks for inviting me. Just give you, on March the 15th, the members of the local voted to ratify the new terms of the contract. And we believe that it is a very fair contract as far as the terms of the agreement. As you know, there's some side letters in there. But as far as the terms, as far as wages, working conditions, the members are satisfied, as you can see by the vote, the ratification, and we're hoping that council votes to ratify the contract tonight.
Great. Sorry, started. My mini tables are falling. Okay, wonderful. Jeff, was there anything you wanted to add?
Well, it was apparent that we felt as if this was the contract that our members could live with. It was conducive to working class people. Obviously, it's labor. That's our ultimate goal. And with the objective to make sure that we continue without any disruption of service to the township, and disruption to the not just the township council or leadership, but the township as a whole, the constituents there. Our members are a part of that township, live and breathe there. And so it's important for us to ratify that and get that passed as soon as possible. Hopefully the council will see fit to do the same. And thanks for having us.
Great, thank you. So does anyone from council have any questions that you wanted to ask our representatives from TWU? Okay, not seeing any. So I do have a concern in reference to the side letter. And my concern is in reference to so the side letter is in reference to I know there was an article about it in the newspaper and so forth, and there was a whole lot of information out there and not out there. I just have concern about if we approve the side letter, are we saying that we support the fact that it's going to the Pennsylvania Labor Board? That there isn't a negotiation going on over job security language within the contract. So that was my only concern, and I realized I seem to be the only one with that concern. So, all right, then, well, yes.
Oh no, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Nope, you're not interrupting. Anyone having concerns or anything?
Well,
okay.
I would just say that from our vantage point, obviously it's obvious concern. I'm on this call as a representative for the president of the local. There's an unfair labor practice that was filed by the township, which we in turn countered and did the same to try to stop something which is in our view, is a negotiable item. Obviously, we're on different sides of the spectrum when it comes to where we see that. I can give you some history. I can give you some brief synopsis of why we believe that, but that's for something for a judge to resolve at this point. If it's taken any further, that's my sole reason for being on the call, to make sure this is ratified, but also this concern that you just raised is something that we would try to resolve earlier and to no avail. This is something that has been in the contract for decades, as well as our biggest part of our local, which is SEPTA workers, has been in there as long as I've been with SEPTA, which is 1981. It's been in there prior to that. It's been a negotiable item in the bargaining unit and in labor in general. And so in essence, here we are at the crossroads of a real I would say the biggest reason I'm on here, because I'm the political director, and it's a political football. It is not easily shunned or poo-pooed away when it comes to labor in general. Not just us, but labor in general. We've gotten calls from the national AFL-CIO. Also, Willie Brown, the president, was on our international union. I was on the international union. I was the former president. I negotiated back in 2005, negotiations with Upper Darby. So my history runs long with this union, but also in the international as well. I was one of the top 5 officers, and I was a trans director. So I know the history of no layoff clause around the country. So we've gotten calls, and we're trying to basically prevent there from being a fallout with labor in general when it comes to this particular item, because they view it, labor in general, as well as the local, view it as a strike against labor. So that's my 15 seconds of fame.
Thank you for that clarification. CA Rangione?
Yeah, yeah, sure. First, I want to thank George Bannon and Jeff Brooks for being here and representing the local, and George especially, spent many hours in tough negotiations with myself, and some of that with the mayor as well. So this was a long process, and it was a tough negotiation, but I think as George said, a fair one. And we were able to come to a really good agreement on wages and benefits and healthcare and lots of things. So I wanted to mention that and just thank them for that. And I've had a couple of good conversations with Jeff on this issue, and I think what it boils down to is we really do have a genuine disagreement about what the law is surrounding this issue. And so both sides really felt, well, we don't want to have a work stoppage. We don't want to have an interruption of service. We don't want to see a good contract sort of go to waste over one issue. Not to diminish it. It is a very important issue. And we do have a genuine disagreement about the state of the law on the issue. And so the appropriate thing to do at that point is to ask the Labor Relations Board or some neutral third party to clarify. And I think that's where we are. And I think there's some ongoing dialogue between us and the local about the thing. But ultimately, having an independent third party weigh in, we believe will be helpful. And if that third party, if the Labor Relations Board or a judge or whomever ultimately agrees with the township's interpretation of the law, great. And if they ultimately agree with the local's interpretation of the law, that's okay too. I completely understand what Mr. Brooks is saying about labor generally. For us, though, we have to represent the taxpayers and residents of Upper Darby, and so our concern, quite honestly, is a little bit more narrow in that regard, and so we feel that we're representing their best interests, and we have a genuine disagreement about this issue, and we think a third party is appropriate to resolve it for us.
Thank you for that clarification. Any questions or concerns from council or questions for our guests? Okay.
If I can.
Sure. Yes. Yes. Mr. Bannon.
Yeah. So, again, I just want to, kind of reiterate what Jeff and Vince said. there obviously is a disagreement. Obviously, Vince feels strongly about certain issues. I will remind everyone here that majority of our workforce lives in Upper Darby Township, and they are your constituents also. And don't forget that, we are one of the very large local in the area, and a lot of our members that actually work for SEPTA actually live in the township. So they are also your constituents. And many of your constituents are labor members. So, and then on the other side of that is we thought that we had an agreement. And this is not the place for this conversation, but I'll just put it out there that we thought we had an agreement. And this item was not part of that. So, that'll all come out if we do end up going to this third party. And, hopefully we can get this thing resolved without that.
Just one point, a clarification.
Sure.
The unfair labor practice was filed. The issue of the contractual difference is not basically a legal matter. It's a contractual matter. It's a contractual matter because, and here's why I tell you, in my history with the union, how in New York, our biggest transit union, local, and biggest transit local in the country, over 39,000 members, they had to actually pass law, the Taylor law, to remove the no layoff clause and remove the ability as the strike clause from the Taylor law, removed the strike clause from the contract, giving them doing what they do with police and firefighters and so forth, so on. The no layoff clause, because I was the transit director in International, over 63,000 members. The no layoff clause was negotiated and has been negotiated, and I did a little more history. We chartered our local in 1943. We chartered the International in 1934. Obviously, none of us were here, and I could look at the faces and tell we weren't at that time. And that's a comment that all of us should be willing to accept. But as well, the no layoff clause has been something has been negotiated in contracts since the 40s. So when we talk about law, I just want to clarify, it's not a legal matter. It's going to go in front of a independent individual for the union for unfair labor practice, which goes in front of the labor board. It's not going into court, it's going in front of the labor board, who veers and looks at negotiations and contractual labor law, or labor negotiations rather, in this sense, labor negotiations, to see if it is conducive to the contract in which you have negotiated or had in place, similar to arbitration. So we're clear on that. Thank you.
Can I, Council President Wentz, can I just make a point?
Sure. Sorry.
Real quick, and of course, I'm Sean Kilkenny, I'm the Township Solicitor. I was not Labor Council, not involved in this. But I just want to be clear from Jeff and George and our friends at the Teamsters perspective that you're in favor of council moving forward on this action tonight. Is that correct?
No, not really. We would like it resolved because we believe we have solid footing. Let me just say this to you.
No, I was just asking, so you don't.
Yeah, you're
so
right.
you don't want a
and I'm
contract.
and I'm going to give you a reason why not. Because the reason why that amendment, I'm not talking about the contract as a whole. I'm talking about the unfair labor practice that should be removed. And the reason why I say so is this. As someone who is the transit director in International, the former president of the local, who was an officer in this union since 1984, was with the Teamsters prior to that, with BMW before that, and an officer in every one of those. I'll just give you since 1976. I can just give you my perspective. The bottom line is this. The moment you take on that fight, that's not our fight anymore. It becomes labor's fight because it's a fight against working class people in a capacity where they have the ability to be able to secure employment during a certain period of time. Once they get past the probationary, no different than probationary time. The fact that you have a fight like this sends a clear message to labor. And that's what I'm trying to divert from and trying to get around. It sends a clear message to labor that the end of, as new elected, or if you've been there a while, individuals who are in the council and mayor, that you basically have shot a shot across the bow with us. And this is no threat. I don't go and give idle threats and so forth, so on. I negotiate and I never make this personal. Never. You know what I mean? Because it's not personal. You know what I mean? Each one of us have an interest that represent the parties on our side.
No, I understand your history. I understand you're advocating for your workers. So you don't want a contract. Is that what you're saying?
No, we want a contract.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to be clear.
We think that the unfair labor plan.
I think there's a clarification between supporting the MOU, which is the memorandum of understanding of the contract and all those items that had been negotiated, as a separate entity to the side letter. The side letter deals specifically to the job security languages and the part that's going to the Pennsylvania Labor Board, right? As a separate entity from the MOU.
The motions for both.
That's right. They're
intertwined.
They are fundamentally connected, and they have both been signed by both parties. So, I mean, I think it's important to be clear. They're fundamentally connected. They've both been signed by both parties. And both Mr. Brooks and Mr. Bannon previously during this meeting said that they were asking council to vote to ratify at this time. So, and look, I understand that Mr. Brooks is the political director for the union and that his portfolio is politics, and he raises real concerns. They're just not concerns that are appropriate for a government meeting. This is a government meeting. We're here to do taxpayer work, not political work. So I do understand his concerns, but it's not exactly the right it's not exactly the right venue in that way. And just to clarify, I do understand. I mean, the first step in the process is the Pennsylvania Labor Relations Board, and they are more like an arbitrator than a judge, although they're not exactly an arbitrator. They're a permanently seated board at the state level. And the difference between is it a contractual matter or is it a legal matter is a short summary of the genuine disagreement. We believe it's a legal matter. We believe that it's an inherent management right and an inherent managerial prerogative. And they believe that it's a contractual matter. And that, so Mr. Brooks isn't wrong. He's just highlighting the precise nature of the genuine disagreement that we have about the issue.
Thank you. I believe Councilman Gwynn had a question.
Yes, basically, I prefer to us to arrive at a mutually agreed settlement with the unions. And I'm sure that what you've reflected to us, Vince, is that you've had give and take discussions with the labor union relative to these things, and that where we're ending up right now is as a result of that give and take that has taken place. And you do have one area which is an area of significant difference betwixt how you view things. And I, as one individual, am not knowledgeable enough in labor law and as to which it should be. And it's kind of hard for me to try to come up with my opinion as to how it should be resolved. Inherently, my background with my father being a union man,
And having been in a union myself for some prior years, I support the union position. That doesn't mean that what we end up with today in terms of this memorandum of understanding is wrong by any means. I think it's a product of the, as you say, the give and take of different things along the route. And I'm accepting that. And I think I think the men deserve to get a good, decent wage and move on this and let for my expression, let the court decide how this other piece should be interpreted.
Thank you, Councilman Gwynn. Mayor Careford, did you want to say something? I thought I saw your hand earlier, but I wasn't sure.
No, I think what's going to be voted on tonight has been signed by both parties, and that's to be voted on. The letter is going to the Labor Relations Board, and they're going to decide between the disagreement that the township has with the union, or the union has with the township, and that's so. Again, like both the MOU and the letter have been signed by both parties. They agree to go before the Labor Relations Board, as do we.
Right. Thank you for that clarification. George Bannon?
Yeah, just want to make note that these are two separate documents, okay? Yes, the side letter is referenced in the MOU. However, they are two separate documents. If they were meant not to be able to be separate and broken apart, there would be one signed document. There's two signed documents. Therefore, I think if council wants to, they can actually break those apart.
Thank you. Councilman Wagner?
I just have a question. I'd like to be real clear about this. The administration is recommending this, is asking council to approve this tonight. That's my understanding. Could you confirm that?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else? Councilman Burke?
Thank you, President Lynch. My question was, I think Solicitor Kilkenny answered that. And I believe Mr. Bannon just brought the same question up. Can it be separated? Can there be a motion to separate it, or just because it's a motion together, we're voting on it?
The administration, the mayor, Vince the CEO can correct me. The motion the administration is requesting is that they be linked. This was I believe, a last second development from the members, from Mr. Bannon to request something different, especially considering it was our understanding that both of these have been moved forward by the rank and file of TWU.
Thank you, Solicitor.
Yeah, they're signed, executed.
They're signed. Yeah.
Yep.
Councilman Silva?
Thank you. I'm a little confused too. Were we just separated? So the MOU seems like it has negotiated, like basically all the meat and potatoes, if you will, the contract, and then the side letter just addresses the one disagreement that's remaining. So were we to pass the MOU and not the side letter, I'm not quite sure what you would negotiate with, or what items would then be negotiable. I mean, basically, it seems like to me it's a kind of all or nothing thing. I'm not quite sure. Perhaps I'm missing something.
Okay.
I would agree with you, Councilman Silva.
Yeah, that's been, yes.
Yeah, no, you're not missing anything, Councilman Silva. The negotiations are done. And, this is where we ended up due to a last minute, oh, by the way, from the township after we had agreed on all the other terms that are laid out in the MOU. That's how we got to the side letter, which is separate from the MOU.
Well, and again, I mean, this is sort of why we need the third party, because when the township issued our initial bargaining letter to TWU, it was very clear in that letter that this clause would be removed from any future agreement between the parties. So that was in the initial letter that opened bargaining, and it was discussed during initial bargaining sessions that we believe that it's an inherent management right and a managerial prerogative. So from our perspective, we put the local on notice at the very beginning of bargaining, and we discussed it in the early stages of bargaining with the local. So we certainly don't believe that there was anything last minute or surprising about it. Again, genuine disagreement about that. And I think Jeff and George are people of good faith. I mean, that's why I keep using the phrase genuine disagreement. I think both sides genuinely believe their position. And so that thus, third party, labor relations board, what have you, to evaluate the disagreement and give us a ruling.
Councilman Tunis, are you raising your hand?
Yes. It just seems that both sides have eloquently stated their positions, how they feel about this issue. I think that it would be, I'm open to asking a call to question.
Okay. I was about to get there, but I just wanted to give opportunity. Since we didn't have like a resolution or, I just wanted a little discussion on it.
Right.
Yep. So the motion is to approve the memorandum of understanding and the side letter between Upper Darby Township and the sorry, my brain is frying.
Transportation?
Yes, the Transport Workers Union Local 234. Can we get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Quinn and Silva. Come on. Any other questions or concerns on this motion? Can we do a roll call vote, Ms. Phillips?
Sure. Councilman Tunis?
Yeah.
Councilwoman Phillips is a yes. Councilor Silva?
Yes.
Councilor Blackwell?
Yes.
Councilor Gwynn?
Yes.
Councilor Burke?
Yes.
Councilor Siddiq?
Yes.
Councilor Faralia?
No.
Councilor Barnett?
Yes.
Councilor Wagner?
Yes.
And Councilor Wentz? Councilor President Wentz?
I am a yes in support of the MOU. I would hope that the township and the union get back to the table to discuss the job security language before the labor board, before it going to the labor board. That is my preference. With that said, I am a yes.
Okay. 10 yes and 1 no.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bannon and Brooks, for joining us. Please let the workers know that we strongly support them and their wanted to make sure they got their ratified contract today. So,
Thank you for having us tonight. Appreciate it, all of you. Take care.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.
Night. Okay, so next up, We have Solicitor Kilkenny with resolution number 17-21.
Thank you very much, Council President Wentz. This was brought to my attention from Councilor Tunis and the administration, as well as I know many of the council members support it. So I'm going to go ahead and read resolution 1721. A resolution of Upper Darby Township, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, supporting the enactment of legislation that would temporarily suspend foreclosures and evictions during COVID-19 pandemic and requesting the Pennsylvania legislature and federal government to take immediate action to address the same. Whereas March 11, 2020, the Director General of the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a global pandemic. COVID-19 was not just a public health crisis, it was a crisis that will touch every sector. Whereas despite extensive mitigation efforts and vaccination deployment, COVID-19 continues to spread and affect all aspects of life, causing an enormous financial and economic impact on individuals and families, which will be felt for years to come. Whereas on multiple occasions over the past year, Governor Wolf, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and various federal agencies, including the U.S. Center for Disease Control, have issued orders or directives imposing a temporary halt or moratorium on certain evictions and foreclosures. Whereas on September 4th, 2020, the CDC published its first temporary eviction moratorium on certain residential evictions, ending on December 31st, 2020. The order was statutorily extended by Consolidated Appropriations Act, January 31st, 2021. Whereas on January 20th, 2001, CDC Director Walensky extended the order to, until March 31st, 2021, on the basis COVID pandemic has presented a historic threat to the nation's health and triggered housing affordability crisis and disproportionately affects some communities like Upper Darby Township that has a significant portion of registered rental units. Whereas on March 29, 2021, Director Walensky further extended the order with modifications through January 30th, 2021, based on the current projected and epidemiological context of SARS-CoV-2 transmission throughout the United States. Director Walensky acknowledged that although the daily incidence of COVID-19 decreased and plateaued between January and March 25th, 2021, widespread transmission occurs at high levels, making the order still necessary. Whereas in accordance with 42 U.S. Code 264E, the order does not preclude state and local authorities from imposing additional requirements to provide greater health protection and are more restrictive than requirements from this order. Whereas an estimated 240,000 Pennsylvanians are at risk of eviction, with the public cost of homelessness due to the potential evictions of the Commonwealth reaching $2.8 billion. Whereas during the 2019-2020 regular session of the Pennsylvania legislature, Vincent Hughes introduced Senate Bill 1132, which would temporarily suspend foreclosures and evictions for 60 days following the end of administrative orders related to COVID-19. Whereas on March 2nd, 2021, the Pennsylvania Senate Democrats, including Senator Hughes and others, introduced Senate Bill 290 legislation similar to Senate Bill 1132 that would pause or halt evictions for non-payment of rent as well of COVID-19 until 60 days after the expiration of Governor Wolf's COVID-19 disaster declaration, and also pause or halt foreclosures and would until 60 days after the expiration of the governor's COVID-19 disaster declaration. Now, therefore, be it resolved in Upper Darby Township, 1, Upper Darby Township formally urges the Pennsylvania legislature, Governor Wolf, and to the extent legal and appropriate, the Pennsylvania courts to take actions to protect renters and homeowners for at least a duration of the COVID-19 pandemic and pass Senate Bill 290. 2, Township Council formally urges the United States Congress and President Biden to also take action to protect renters and homeowners for at least a duration of COVID-19 pandemic and authorize or direct CDC director to extend the existing CDC moratorium for the duration of the COVID-19 pandemic. And 3, that copies of this resolution be sent to all elected federal, state, and local officials representing any part of Upper Darby Township, adopted and resolved this day in council chambers.
Thank you. I also want to thank Councilman Tunis for bringing this to our attention. This is a very important issue. Would you like to speak about it, Councilman Tunis, since you brought it to us?
Thank you, Council President Wentz. I also want to thank Solicitor Richardson and Kilkenny, as well as the administration and Council President Wentz for helping me bring this forward. As many of you may know, I represent the 7th District. It's been one of the biggest honors of my life. But this is a resolution that affects our entire township. This is something that stems from me talking to residents on an everyday basis, right? Through the pandemic, trying to make ends meet. They did provide an extension, but it's just not realistic, right? They provided one to about, I believe, June 30th. It would be hard for many residents to make that up and be able to pay these bills. If you know, there's organizations like Legal Aid, Community Action. They are like overwhelmed with how many residents have been contacting them seeking help with some of these issues. So I think our residents need to know where we stand as a township government on this issue. So I'm asking at the April 21st meeting if you all would take the step and stand with me to urge our higher officials to extend this until the pandemic is completely, as we can say, we transition completely for our residents. And I'm just hoping all of my colleagues can join me in that effort.
Definitely. Are there any questions or concerns on this resolution? All right. Councilwoman Billups or Councilman Silva, do you guys want to poll your committee?
Councilman Silva has
his hand up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I was just going to ask that same. But yes, certainly. Well, I thought we would make a motion to advertise, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, before we get to the motion to,
There's no advertisement needed. It's a resolution. Yeah.
Right. It's a resolution. So it's just a matter of pulling, asking if committee supports moving this forward to the April 21st meeting.
Okay. Well, then let's go ahead with that then. Councilwoman Billups, Councilman Siddiq, and Councilwoman Blackwell, would you like to see this item move forward for April 21st?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilman Siddiq has his hand up.
Yeah, I think so. This is going beyond June 30th. Then there will be no eviction, or how it will work like.
So essentially, what this is,
the governor have an emergency declaration until June 30th, right? Extension.
From what I believe, there's been an extension. But what this specific resolution is what state and our township council's position on urging our higher officials to extend it beyond that, because our residents are going through a lot. Like, and many of them won't be able to still make it ends meet way after June 30th. So many of them were small business owners that have never recovered. So this is just our way of voicing the opinions of our residents and making sure that our voices are heard and putting it in writing and having us vote on it. I don't know if that makes, is that clear?
It makes sense, Councilman Tunis, but I think I'm thinking as a social worker, because I think also we need to make sure that our residents know that that there are resources out there. You know, because there's just been some COVID money, and people need to try to access that money, because you're right, it's going to go beyond the pandemic, and we don't want to have people homeless. So anything that we can do for the residents to try to access this money that the county may have, or the township may have, I think, you know, whatever district you're in, I think they can do that also.
Yeah, and I know, just like both State Rep Zabel and State Rep Margot Davidson, as well as Mayor Keffer's administration and Senator Kearney's office, they all have some form of constituent service that have different connections and outreach to these different organizations. I think that you're absolutely right on that point, and that's why I'm asking if we can push this forward, and I just urge our higher officials.
I also would like to add it that when we're going to make the law in the township, while we're in the council, we have to think about all the residents. All the residents mean some residents is renters, some resident is landlord, some resident investor, and we are favoring the renters. We're not talking anything about the people who eventually have to pay the taxes, the mortgage, and all these things. And always,
I think it's important, Councilman Siddiq, to read the resolution. A big thing in the resolution is not only focus on renters, it's also homeowners, right? Because a lot of people haven't been able, if they lost their job, they might not be able to pay the usual bills as they normally would. And keep in mind, this isn't a law that's saying like, oh, like Upper Darby Township Council now controls the whole housing department, and we're gonna make sure that A, B, or C doesn't have to pay their rent. No, what we're asking is we're just urging our higher officials to pay attention to what's happening. People can't make rent. They can't pay their mortgage. Every day in my 9 to 5, I have people constantly coming in. Has there been an update? Has there been a federal update? I'm back. I need help. So yes, you're right. We do have everyone. I just think this is a resolution that voices the opinions of many residents in the township. And like every resolution or every ordinance, there's some people we may not be talking to. I feel like this resolution speaks for a lot of people in our township, and it's an ongoing issue. This is just our way of voicing it.
And I also want to, I just want to chime in a little bit. If someone's if they're an owner of an apartment building or apartments, they often put the taxes back into the rent. They charge the renters parts of what they have to pay in taxes. So if the people renting can't afford to pay their rent because they've been unemployed, I personally have technically been unemployed since March 12th of 2020. The one bill that I pay every month is my mortgage. So because I pay it every month, I don't qualify for mortgage relief because I've actually been really good on paying that bill. Everything else is out the window, but I pay that bill. I get a food box. I signed up for SNAP for the first time in my life. And I eat 1 to 2 meals a day because that's what I needed to do to be able to pay my mortgage on what little unemployment I get. So I know that's the situation I'm in. I know that there are hundreds of other, thousands of other residents in Upper Darby in a very similar situation, and they're all doing the best they can in the situation they can. So this resolution acknowledges their situation. It focuses on helping them survive and helping them to keep the roof over their heads in the best way that we can. And I think that this is a fabulous resolution, and it's one that we definitely need to move forward. And it says that we care about the residents and homeowners of our township.
Yes, I'm okay with the move forward. That's fine. And just my concern was we're going to represent the whole township, the residents, or resident in large.
I see Councilman Silva, is your hand still up from before?
No, I just put it back up. I just wanted
Okay,
to
okay, I'm
then
sorry.
say that all 4 members of the committee would like to move this forward for our next meeting on the 21st. So.
Great. And Councilwoman Blackwell, your hand is up. Is that?
Yes, I just want to add that there's a program called HEMAP. It's through the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency. So it's HEMAP if there are any homeowners that may need assistance. And if you need additional information regarding that, you can just contact me. But that is HEMAP that helps homeowners with assistance.
Great, thank you. Can you put your email address in the chat in case anyone needs to reach out to you?
Okay.
Thank you. Great. Okay, so do you want to, all right, so resolution 17-21 is going to move on to, actually, does anyone else from council have any questions or concerns on this resolution? I'm sorry. Okay, I see none. Great, so it will move forward to April 21st, 2021. Do you guys want to continue with checking on your committee and council for anything else for this, for the Long Government Committee?
Anyone from council?
Sure, that's okay with.
I think that's it, President Wentz.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Moving on. Great. So our next up, we have the Finance and Appropriations Committee, co-chairs Gwynn and Silva, members Blackwell and Burke. And if we can get Pat Scott to give us an introduction of ordinance number 3098.
Yes, thank you, Council President Wentz. Pat Scott of the Obermeyer Law Firm, we're bond counsel to the township. And if you recall, back in November of 2020, council approved 2 ordinances that authorized the issuance of bonds. One in the maximum amount of $10 million for new capital assets and equipment, and one for up to $16.3 million to refund and refinance existing debt. A little report is that, and Tim Kerr from PNC Capital Markets is on the call with us, and he can answer any questions, but a short report is that PNC is looking to sell the bonds tomorrow, and we intend to close on the transaction by the end of April, which will be April 28th. In kind of preparing for closing, we recognized that the original ordinances did not include as authorized signing parties the mayor, the CAO, and didn't provide for the attestation of the chief municipal clerk, which I understand through conversations with Ms. Richardson that the Home Rule Charter does require or allow for the mayor, CAO, and chief municipal clerk to execute documents. So we're proposing an ordinance to amend the 2 prior ordinances to simply permit those individuals to act as authorized signing parties. And with that, I will read the proposed ordinance. Upper Darby Township, Delaware County, Pennsylvania. An ordinance of Upper Darby Township, Delaware County, amending and clarifying the township officers and officials authorized to carry out Ordinance 3083 and Ordinance 3084, repealing all prior ordinances or parts thereof inconsistent herewith. Whereas Upper Darby Township, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, is a political subdivision of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and is a local government unit under terms of the Pennsylvania Local Government Unit Debt Act as codified by the Act of December 9, 1996. Whereas Upper Darby Township Council of the Township previously enacted legislation, ordinance number 2020-3083, authorizing the incurrence of non-electoral indebtedness and the issuance of its general obligation bonds, Series A of 2021, in the principal amount of up to $16,300,000. Whereas Township Council also enacted legislation, ordinance 2020-3084, authorizing the incurrence of non-electoral indebtedness and the issuance of its general obligation bond series of 2021 in a principal amount of up to $10 million and collected the Series 2021 bond ordinance collectively with the Series 2021A bond ordinances, the bond ordinances. Whereas council desires to amend certain provisions of the bond ordinances to add additional authorized signatories to the closing documents required by the ordinances. Now, therefore, council does hereby ordain and enact the following. Section 1, the mayor of the township or chief administrative officer of the township with the attestation of the chief municipal clerk, and in their absence, the president or vice president of council, along with the secretary or any assistant secretary of council, or any other appropriate officer of the township as designated by the ordinances, as the case may be, are hereby authorized to execute any agreements, instruments, or documents, and to do or cause to be done any and all acts and things deemed necessary or appropriate for carrying out the purposes of the bond ordinances and to comply with the Debt Act. Section 2, the purpose of the ordinance is to amend and supplement the bond ordinances, which ordinances remain in full force and effect as amended and supplemented hereby. All ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent herewith are repealed. Section 3, if any section, paragraph, subsection, clause, or provision of this ordinance is declared invalid or unconstitutional by a court of competent jurisdiction, such decision shall not affect the validity of this ordinance as a whole or any part thereof, then that portion specifically declared invalid. Section 4, this ordinance shall become effective in accordance with applicable law. And we have it dated for April 21st of 2021. We would ask for authority to advertise this ordinance in anticipation of the meeting on April 21st. That's all I have unless anybody has any questions.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions or concerns on this ordinance from anyone on council? All right, seeing none. Oh, Councilman Bonnet. Go for it, Councilman Bonnet.
Thank you, Madam President. I just have a question for the solicitor. Does this in any way affect any requirement that debt must be approved in advance of being taken on by the township, by the council? It must be approved by the council?
No, I believe this only relates just to signature authority. Is that correct, Mr. Scott?
Yes, it's signature authority related to the two bond issues that were approved in November, and that's as far as it goes.
But I think Mr. Bonnet's saying if there was a future refinance or bond issuance, it still would have to come before council. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely correct.
Yeah. Okay.
I know this is not too far from what our past practice has been. I know when I was president of council, I know the vice president as well, were required to sign any document that was presented by a lending institution to incur debt after approval by council. So again, thanks for the clarification.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Just want to make sure for the discussion part of the ordinance, we have a little discussion before we do the official first reading concept. So, okay, seeing no questions. Oh, Councilman Gwynn.
I'm probably preempting you with this. Go
So
ahead.
can you let me finish my sentence then?
Absolutely.
Why do you got to keep preempting me? Can we get a motion to advertise, to do the introduction and advertise for ordinance 3098? Is that you, Mr. Councilman Gwynn?
Yep.
All right. Can we get a second?
I'd like to second that.
Silva? Great. Are there any questions or concerns on the advertisement of this ordinance? I just want to, Mr. Scott, when you guys do it, 2021 will be our hybrid meeting where we'll be transitioning into in-person calling as well as the email way of like the public comment we had this evening. So if we can make sure that you get that proper wording from Alexis on that for your advertisement for the 21st. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Okay, great.
Will do.
Wanted to make sure we're consistent in all of our advertisements for April 21st. Okay.
Got it.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. So, any questions or concerns on this motion to advertise? Seeing none, Ms. Phillips, can you give us a roll call?
Sure. Counselor Tunis?
Yeah.
Counselor Billups is a yes. Counselor Silva?
Yes.
Counselor Blackwell?
Yes.
Counselor Gwynn?
Yes.
Counselor Burke?
Yes.
Counselor Sadiq?
Yes.
Counselor Faralia?
No.
Counselor Barnett?
You're muted.
Sorry about that. Yes.
Counselor Wagner?
No.
And Counselor President Wentz.
Yes.
So 2 noes and the rest are yes.
9. Yep.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Great. Thank you very much. So this ordinance will be advertised by Pat Scott's Realm. And Alexis, if you can get him the proper wording, that would for the public comments portion of the ordinance. Because that will still, it'll still apply for that. Okay, great. Thank you very much for taking part.
Thank you.
Great.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you, Pat.
Thanks.
So next up, we have Resolution 1821 introduced. Can we get a reading from Solicitor Kilkenny?
Thank you very much. A resolution authorizing application to the Keystone Communities Program for the Pennsylvania Department of the Community and Economic Development, DCD, for the facade improvement project. Whereas Upper Darby Township desires to undertake the facade improvement project that is concentrated on the unit block of Garrett Road and surrounding area. And whereas the Upper Darby Township recognizes that the facade improvement project would be a community asset and capital improvement to business devastated by COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas the Upper Darby Township desires to apply and to request funding through DCED Keystone Communities Program for a grant for the purpose of completing the project. Now therefore be it resolved that 1, the township is hereby authorized to apply for and execute and submit a grant to the DCED Keystone Communities Program in the amount of $50,000, whereas the township is authorized to provide such assurances, certificates, and supplemental data or revised data that may be requested in connection with the application and administration of this grant, resolved and enacted into adopted and resolved today in council chambers. Laura Wentz, council president.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any questions or concerns on the resolution itself? Since we do have to vote on it this evening, we should have a little discussion before we take the because it's committee side of the meeting. So anyone have questions or concerns on the resolution? Councilman Gwynn? You're muted because I did go through and mute everyone while the solicitor was speaking. So we didn't get feedback.
I just wanted to reconfirm what had been stated by the mayor, that the township is in fact, in addition to the $50,000 to be raised here, is going to match another $50,000 to get these funds and facades done. Is that correct?
Correct.
Effort? Thank you, Vince.
Sure.
Okay, any
That's it.
other
I'm in favor.
questions? Any other questions and concerns? Okay, seeing none. All those.
Hold on.
Oh, Councilman Barnett. There you go.
Can I get further clarification on what the facade improvement project involves? Some detail on this?
Yeah, sure. So the facades, particularly in the unit block of Garrett Road, have a lot of older signage, and in a lot of cases where the metal signpost is no longer actually in use, but is still hanging off the building. There are some other instances where the lettering and design is kind of non-uniform, and so that won't all be smoothed out, because some of the non-uniformness is attractive or historic, but some of it could be sort of streamlined to make the businesses have more curb appeal. So it really depends on the individual facade, what needs to be done in order to improve the appearance of the facade. It actually started, we were discussing a lighting project, and as we were discussing the lighting project to make the business district more attractive, the township engineer, Mike Galante, actually brought this grant program to our attention, and we thought, oh, it makes a lot of sense to actually pursue this grant and improve the curb appeal and quality of the facades before we do the lighting program. So I don't know if the mayor or Mike Galante want to elaborate on that, but hopefully that was helpful.
It was, but I also have a further question. Are the building owners contributing in any way?
So the mayor canvassed the block and spoke with as many business owners as she could, and got signatures from many of them that were supportive of the idea of the application. In terms of direct contribution from like monetary from the business owners, I don't believe that is part of the program. I think, but maybe the township engineer could help further clarify. But the business owners are certainly supportive, and yeah, the idea is to sort of help them push forward and improve their businesses.
Should the township receive this grant in any amount, is there a cap on how much the township will contribute to this program out of taxpayer funds?
Well, that's a good question, and we were exploring the options that we have. One is CDBG program, where it wouldn't be direct taxpayer dollars. Several of the business owners had expressed that they wanted to do improvements to their facades, whether it's removing signs that are not, the hanging signs that aren't legal or what have you. I mean, when you look at the block, and it needs a lot of work, and it's not the only business district in the township that needs it, but we thought we would tie it into the improvements that we want to make in the municipal parking lot. And because there was already money designated for a lighting project, we want to light up things that look great, just like the original lighting project that this is sort of based off of, which is in the alleyway between, I think it's the Tower Theater and the Parketeria. It's much narrower there, but I mean, this is just something, again, like CAO Ron had said, that Mike Galante had brought to our attention, and we want to make it the best project that we can, and we want to work with business owners. We want all the businesses to be able to take part in this, and we thought that the unit block of Garrett Road was a good fit. It's small, but there's businesses there, and it needs some attention, and we want to obviously we want to get the grant, and we want to work through it in its many parameters, and then expand it to other neighborhood business districts throughout the township.
Again, thank you for that. I would certainly feel a great deal more comfortable if, in fact, some limitations were established as part of what council is being asked to approve. But thank you.
Sure. there is a $50,000 max on the grant from the township. So we
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that we're also talking about the part of Garrett Road that's between Westchester Pike and the Township building. And you're right, that section of Garrett Road has a lot of, it's actually like a gateway into the township through everyone who's coming out of the transportation center at 69th Street and then moving into the rest of the business section of Garrett Road. That's the pathway that people walk, and that is an area that greatly needs facade TLC in a major way. So I'm really thankful that you guys, Mike Galante brought this to you, and that we're able to, make these adjustments because that is definitely an area that needs some serious fixing. So I see Councilman Sadiq, Burke, and Gwen. But Gwen, I thought you already asked something, or maybe not on this one. Okay, so Sadiq.
Thank you. This is a nice project. I would like to ask that the matching grant from the township is, let's say, $50,000. And that $50,000 we're investing our taxpayer money to the business owners. Many of the business owners may not live in Upper Darby Township. And we are beautifying the township, and same way it will give attraction to their business. And that way their business will get increased. And I believe that they should share with the township for this beautification project, like from 50 to 25, they can join with the township, and we can ask them maybe that if they can share with us.
Well, I mean, just because we apply for a grant doesn't mean we're going to get it. That's one thing. And it's, I think it's $5,000 maximum for each business. And we're trying, we want to figure it out. Like we want to get the grant. And we're asking council we're just asking council at this point to support the grant. That's all, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. And look, I think what's going on here is the mayor is committed to creating a virtuous cycle in the township with the business owners. So similar to her initiatives with regard to property maintenance or litter control, like we've already seen more business owners taking an active interest in cleaning their sidewalks and picking up litter out of the gutter because they've seen the township take an active interest in their business district. And so the facade grant is kind of the same way. There's been a lot of COVID hardship on small businesses, and that business district has a lot of small businesses. The facade improvements are also part of the comprehensive plan that were passed in 2018. So the idea is that the grant is relatively small, but hopefully it's the first domino. And if the business owners see the township investing in them, they will be encouraged to then invest themselves in their own business or in more businesses in Upper Darby. So I think the idea is not a bad one to try to get the owners to buy in and do more. It's just a question of exactly how and when to do it. And this grant program is a good opportunity, again, to start that virtuous cycle, kind of push over that first domino and get them more invested is another long-term goal of the grant.
Thank you. Councilman Burke.
Thank you, President Wentz. Earlier, the mayor spoke about the matching, the 50,000 matching. That will not come out of the general budget. Is that correct? Or we're going to use other grant money to match that 50,000?
Again, as I said earlier, that we were looking into the CDBG program to possibly fund the match. So I don't.
If it doesn't match, does it come out of the general fund or do we throw that grant away? Or
No,
do we
no.
wait
So
till-
there are monies both in the regular budget and in the capital improvement budget, specifically allocated for matching funds for grants. So there are a couple of different possibilities. I think CDBG funding is one of them. The capital improvement budget is one of them, and the general fund budget is also one of them, because we set aside money with matching funds in mind. So it's not like it would be an off-book expense in that regard. I think that's what you're asking, Councilman.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm asking.
Yeah,
You know,
okay.
if we don't get the grant, do we go into the capital money? You know, and you know, hopefully those owners are local owners and not out-of-state owners that will invest in our township instead of just collecting money. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilman.
Either way,
Sorry, go ahead.
they own those businesses, right? No matter where they're from.
Well, obviously they haven't been taking care of them, so.
Well, we could go through and see
Yeah,
that. in a lot of
agree.
Councilman Silva.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, this resolution looks like it's just to authorize the application to the grant. I mean, I appreciate my colleagues' concerns about like, you know, the financial fiduciary concerns, but I think at the same time, I for one feel that I think it would be nice to authorize that we go after this grant and attempt to, you know, I don't know, it's been a tough year. It would be nice if we were like making an improvement, and I almost feel like it would just be like a nice step to move forward with something to help beautify the township, especially an area that it could really benefit from it. So I hope I hope my fellow council members agree.
Thank you. Is there anyone besides Councilman Gwynn, because he has already spoken on this issue? Just want to make sure everyone gets a chance to speak once. Seeing none, Councilman Gwynn.
The question that I was going to ask has already been asked and answered.
Ooh,
Thank you.
see, that works out. Okay, great. So at this time, can we get a motion to approve Resolution 18-21?
So
Roll call
moved.
vote or
Seconded.
So moved by Silva and seconded by Sadiq. Any questions or concerns on this resolution? We need it ASAP because of the grant application process. That's why we have a bunch of grants on this agenda that are things that need to happen very quickly so that they can apply for the funds. Just for that clarification. Okay. All those in favor of passing resolution 18-20, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say your name.
Tom Bonnet.
Lisa Faralia.
Okay. Don, Lisa, Don. Tom, did you vote?
Yes, I did.
Okay, cool. I didn't specifically hear you, so I just wanted to make sure I got you. That's all.
As said by a famous attorney, I am not a potted plant.
Thank you. Okay, so the motion carries. So thank you for passing the resolution. Next up, we have Solicitor Kilkenny to give us a reading of Resolution 19-21.
A resolution authorizing the application of the community project funding to the Department of Housing and Urban Development for the Economic Development Initiative. Whereas Upper Darby Township desires to apply for Economic Development Initiative through HUD to fund the construction of Upper Darby Community Center. And whereas Upper Darby Township recognizes the Economic Development Initiative funding for Upper Darby Community Center will be an asset to the township. And whereas Upper Darby Township desires to apply to and request funding from the HUD Economic Development Initiative for the purpose of funding the construction of the green roof stormwater management, and other green technologies of Upper Darby Community Center. Now therefore be it resolved that 1, the township is hereby authorized to apply for and execute and submit an application to the Department of Housing and Urban Development initiative through Congresswoman Mary Gay Scanlon in the amount of $1 million. The township is authorized to provide such assurances, certificates, and supplemental data or revised data that may be requested in connection with the application and administration of the Economic Development Initiative adopted and resolved in today on the 7th day of April, or whence Council President.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions or concerns from council members on this resolution? Councilman Gwynn? You got to turn your mic on because I muted you.
You're sneaky like that.
I am. It's crazy talk. Go ahead.
Just one quick question. Is there any matching requirements for these type of grants, or any reporting requirements that are special and unique?
No, I don't believe so. This is a sort of the federal government has kind of resurrected this community funding project system. I think more colloquially, they were just known as earmarks, but they've changed the name and brought them back. So no, I don't believe there are matching requirements, but it is sort of a newly revived program. So we're happy to continue to update council as we go through the process.
Thank you. That would be wonderful.
Thank you.
Councilman Siddiq, and then I see Councilman Barnett.
Thank you again. We're talking about the community center going to be built on 7000 Walnut Street.
Correct.
Yeah, I was there on the presentation, and I would like to thank our mayor and our CEO to working hard, and also our congresswoman and all the elected officials working hard to bring this project in our Upper Darby Township, especially 7th District. I was one Saturday that for the presentation, and one thing as a community member, I was feeling lacking of like a hall for the party or for hold the event. This kind of hall, they don't have it in the map, in the structure. So if are we allowed to request to add a party hall, and same time the township can generate the money, or the state, if it owned by state, then the state can collect the hall rental. Basically, I would like to say, can we add a party hall or hall rental in that building?
Yeah, sure. So we're still in the community input phase of the project, and so we're definitely still taking suggestions from everyone in the community, but certainly council as well. And one of the goals of the center is to be able to host community events. You know, part of the question of exactly what type of community events and how large those community events would be able to be will hinge on how much money we can raise to build the project, right? So we know we're not going to be able to put everything in there that everyone requests, but the more successful we are at getting investment from the county, state, and federal governments, the more amenities and features we'll be able to include in there. But I do think that as of now, there will be at least one very large general purpose room where you could have a significant sized event. Same thing, the currently proposed green roof is made to also be able to host an event of 75 to 100 people on the roof. So it would be actually a very cool and unique at this point event space in the township.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next up we have Councilman Barnett and then Silva. Bennett, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have knowledge of what it will cost for a green roof on the proposed building?
Yeah, sure. So I'll let the township engineer fill in the details here, but just to the broad strokes, we've sort of projected the project in the $5 to $8 million total cost range. And some of that, again, will hinge on our ability to secure funding. And it'll also hinge on the responses that we get to the RFP to ultimately design the building. But again, maybe Michael can give us some more specifics on green roof costs and things.
Yeah, so this grant that we are applying for through Scanlon's office is specifically for the green roof. And I believe the estimate that we prepared is about $975,000. And that would be, if awarded, that would fund the green roof for the community center. That's assuming a cost of around $50 a square foot.
Michael, does that consider is that over and above what the cost of a conventional roof structure would be? Because we know we have to increase the both live load in the case of it being an occupied roof, the dead load and live load characteristics of the structure, which means a beefier, heavier duty structural system, which has a cost over and above the cost of a conventional roof. Do we know that delta?
Yeah, so when preparing the estimate for the building, we factored those numbers in. I think we're at around, for the entire project, we're in between around $7 to $8 million, $1 million of it being the green roof. It still hasn't gone through full construction plans yet. We're actually going to be putting an RFP out for that soon. And once we get further on with the design, we'll be able to have a better idea of that delta that you mentioned as far as the structural system required to support the roof. But for now, we use the budgetary number of $50 a square foot, which essentially with a 20,000 square foot roof, you're around somewhere in the range of $1 million. I came up around 975 when I worked the numbers out.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Silva?
Yeah, thank you. So this application, this would basically is funding it because of the environmental request, like construction. Is that like part of the for this application? That's like one of the considerations. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. The as you know, right, there's a lot of asphalt and concrete in the township in general, but also in this particular neighborhood. And so the green roof, in addition to providing a great amenity for the township, also provides for better stormwater management, rainwater collection, et cetera, et cetera. It provides green space in an area of the township where there's very little green space.
And I'd just like to add to that looking at the development over the last, decade or so and into the near future with land development plans that we've had before us, it's very likely that this building will be the first LEED certified building in the entire township. And that's something we've invested a lot of time and we will continue to do that. We're looking for funding resources. And at the same time, we're pointing to the future. We want other developers to come in here to understand that, as Vince has said a number of times, what was good enough for Upper Darby isn't good enough anymore, right? First, LEED certified, that's what we want there. And so it'll be more expensive than to do it on the cheap, as was done with the building that exists there now. On that property, we're working really hard to create a future that outlasts us, the people that are here right now. So,
I mean, if I could offer my opinion as well, there is a cost because it's 20,000 square feet, but it's also 20,000 square feet. I mean, the whole point of having a community building, I mean, it's space. You would be cutting it almost in half by not having the green roof, especially if with this grant, we could basically fund it. Yeah, I'm absolutely for it on an aesthetic level, but also on a value level. It would just, it would create a much more useful building. So yeah, I'm all for it. Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? Councilman Wagner?
Thank you. I'm really struck by what the mayor just said, that we're looking to create a future that will outlast us. I hope we all bear in mind that we may be creating a debt that will outlast us and will be paid by a lot of other people along those lines. I'm mindful still of the fact that while we're looking to spend X amount of dollars, perhaps millions, on the building of this community center, we closed one. We closed a senior center in Pilgrim Gardens, and there was no public input on that at all. So I'd like to know, how much money did we save by closing that facility, and is any of that being used to help pay for this new one?
It's interesting that you're gonna talk about the Pilgrim Center or Pilgrim Garden Senior Center when actually Watkins and that center were closed by COVID, but that's okay. And Pilgrim Gardens was fully funded by direct taxpayer money, whereas the Watkins Senior Center, which has been there for a few decades, is 70 to 80% funded by COSA through the county. However, no, I am not looking to tax anybody and to be an undue burden on anything that we do. Community center is going to be built on our property. It's township property. The building that is there right now is disgraceful. It's an absolute disgrace. And I don't think that we should be funding, as taxpayers here in Upper Darby, a senior center that is populated by more than half of people that don't live in the township. That's my opinion. And that's the way it's going to be. The senior centers are still closed. We're still on COVID. So I don't like to be accused of closing something that I did not close. So we can start there, but when we're through COVID, Councilman Wagner, we can talk about that, okay?
Only we didn't talk about it when it was done. That's a real concern.
It was closed with COVID.
Hold on.
It's been closed for a year.
We're way off topic. We're way off topic.
Thank you.
I'd like to know if I can get my question answered. And my question simply was, how much money did we save on the closing?
Okay.
So wait, clarification. Senior centers were closed as a result of COVID. It was not a choice of the township to close it. COVID came along and the buildings had to be closed.
I don't recall hearing.
Want to clarify that before, but CAO, you wanted to weigh on the clarification on that? Yes.
Well, I just want to answer Councilman Wagner's question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go for it. CAO.
So we still pay rent on the facility. It's being utilized as a police substation. All of the people who provide senior programming are still employed by the township and doing our best to provide programming. We've done things like parking lot bingo. Like we're trying to provide COVID-safe senior programming with the staff. So the answer is there isn't actually a significant cost savings. As a matter of fact, there's some amount of lost revenue from not being able to charge the seniors. So that's really the answer.
Okay, and I appreciate that, Mr. CIO. Am I correct, or maybe I just missed it? I don't know. Am I correct that tonight's the first time we've heard the explanation that the closing of the senior center in Pilgrim Gardens was COVID related? I just don't recall hearing it before. Maybe I missed it, but I don't recall hearing that before.
No, I think the open question is about what does reopening look like? I mean, the senior centers, a lot of activities, not just senior centers, but recreation programs and 4th of July celebrations and international festivals. A lot of things were shut down by COVID. I think the open question is what does reopening look like? And does that look like consolidated programming at the Watkins Center? Does that look like multiple centers in different locations? Does that look, I think so. That's the open question in my mind.
And I appreciate the fact that you're still considering the reopening. And honestly, I didn't know that either. But what I was asking was, am I correct that tonight's the first time we've heard the explanation that the closing of the Senior Center in Pilgrim Gardens was COVID related? I just don't remember hearing that ever before. I actually thought it was closed before the pandemic hit us, but I could be wrong. You've got records and all that. I just would like to know, am I correct about that this is the first time we've heard that explanation, or am I incorrect?
I remember hearing it in the past. Over the past year, it's come up numerous times.
I was talking to Mr. Marziano.
You asked a question.
Point of order, point of order. Point of order, please.
Something totally different. Just not sure how we got
All right.
Okay.
Shut down the debate again.
It's not a forum.
All right, so we're gonna continue forward. Councilwoman Phillips? I see your hand.
Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. You didn't have a question?
No.
Okay. Councilman Burnett? Did you already speak? Go ahead, you did speak. Just before you speak again, is there anyone else that had a question before we go back to Councilman Burnett? Okay, seeing none, go ahead, Councilman Burnett. You need to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Not to belabor the issue on Pilgrim Gardens, but to move beyond that, I just want to just correct the record. I'd be very surprised if there's statistical data that says that more than half the residents that occupied that building were from outside our township. And if it were, then I'd like to see similar data for the Watkins Center and where those folks that patronize the Watkins Center come from. And we can pursue that through more formal channels if necessary. But the move beyond this, why don't we open a dialogue as far as what the need is for a senior center in the western part of Upper Darby Township? And
so wait,
we're
hold,
so far off topic.
Rewind. The conversation at this moment is technically not on senior centers at all. We're here discussing resolution 19-21, a HUD grant of $1 million for the community center. That is,
okay. I'll withdraw. And we'll save it for new business.
Great. Thank you. Yes, let's call the question. Okay, so
I'd like to make a motion to approve this.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Gwynn. Motion to, and Phillips, Gwynn, and Phillips. Thank you. Any more questions and concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of resolution 19-20, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say your name.
I'm Wagner, no.
Don Bonnet, no.
Okay.
No for me.
Okay. And yes, everybody else. Great. The motion passes. 8. Great. Passed. So we are moving on to Resolution 20-21. Solicitor Richardson, can you please give us a reading of this resolution?
Thank you and good evening, President Wentz. This is a resolution authorizing the application to the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, DCNR, for Observatory Hill Park improvements and Nailers Run Master Site Development Plan. Whereas Upper Darby Township recognizes the importance of our woodlands, parks, trails, and open spaces to the quality of life for our community and is committed to maintaining and restoring these spaces. Whereas Upper Darby Township has completed an assessment of its parks and listened to the concerns of residents to identify the strong need for restoration and improvements at Observatory Hill, a 4.4 acre park in a densely populated area of the community. And whereas Upper Darby Township recognizes that Nailers Run, due to its 27.4 acre size, complexity, and wide range of opportunities, could strongly benefit from a master site development plan. Whereas Upper Darby Township desires to apply to and request funding from the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for grants for the purpose of completing these projects. And now therefore be it resolved that 1, the township is hereby authorized to apply for, execute, and submit a grant application to DCNR for rehabilitation of Observatory Hill Park and a grant application to DCNR for a Nailers Run master site development plan. 2, the township is authorized to revise such assurances, certificates, and supplemental data or revised data that may be requested in conjunction with the application and administration of this grant. So ends the reading.
Thank you. Are there any questions or concerns on this resolution? I just have one question. Is there a different grant that we'll be applying for Chapman Park?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a completely different. Great. I just want to make sure because I know we had that town hall and visit at Chapman Park. I just want to make sure. Thank you. Councilman Silva?
Yeah. Okay. Is this a motion to introduce or a motion to approve?
A motion to apply for the grant.
Okay, so it's a motion to approve. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Phillips.
Do we know how long after the grant is applied for that it usually takes for the Commonwealth to disperse the funds? So you want to know that answer?
Want me to answer that one?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, typically from working with these kind of grants, first you have to get awarded. So it has to go to a meeting. They have to review all the applications. If you do get awarded and you're applying now, you would probably see the grant sometime this year. You'll probably start working. You would get notification that you're awarded and start entering the grant agreement. So it takes some time, but sometimes depending on how quickly they approve the applications, it could be quicker. But there's usually about a lag of about 8 to 10 months from the time you actually get the grant awarded.
Okay, thank you.
And Councilman Burke?
Thank you, President Wentz. Question to Mike. Is this, as President Wentz asked earlier, is this the grant that we went to the 2 parks to the tune of $250,000 that we were looking for each park, or is this something different? And what is the value on the grant for this resolution 2021?
We prepared an estimate and a plan for Observatory Park, and the estimate came in somewhere around, I think, $700,000. This grant is for, I believe, $250,000. However, the master plan and the total project is just the overall improvements that you like to have at the site. Depending on the availability of funding is what you're going to get done. But however, in this case, we're applying for, I believe, $250,000 for Observatory Park. Chapman Park, as stated previously by CAO Rangioni, is a different, will be under a different application.
Yeah, my question was, when we were at that meeting, it was $250,000 per park. Now, are we just doing $250,000 for Observatory? Is that what we're doing? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? Okay, seeing none, can we get a motion to approve resolution 20-21?
So moved by
I'd like to make a
Blackwell.
motion.
Okay, Blackwell
Seconded.
moved and
Seconded by
Gwyn,
Gwyn.
sorry, Gwyn seconded because they made the motion at almost the same time. Great. Any other questions or concerns? We are passing, it's a motion to pass it because of the need for the timely fashion for the grant application. Okay, all those in favor of passing resolution 20-21, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, say your name. Great, ayes have it. Okay, next up, Finance Committee, we get to go back to you guys. So Councilman Gwyn and Silva, do you want to check to see if anyone has anything for your committee? Go ahead, take it away.
Anybody from the committee have anything else to bring forward? Does anybody from council? Does anybody from the administration? Seeing none, hearing none, moving on.
Great, thank you. So next up, we have Planning, Zoning, and Building Code Committee, co-chairs Gwyn and Billups. Members are Barnett and Tunis Jr. Solicitor Kilkenny, can you give us a reading of ordinance number 3096 for us to discuss for committee purposes before the formal introduction?
Thank you very much, Council President Wentz. I'm going to not read this entire document as it is, as is quite extensive. So council may wonder and the public may wonder, why is this document back here? Because it was in front of you less than a year ago. And the reason being is, if you may remember, we went through a codification process. Well, unfortunately, Ordinance 3096, the property maintenance code, got caught in the cracks. So we adopted it while the codification was going on, but it wasn't included in the codification. So therefore, when the codification passed, this was left out and was not included in the laws of Upper Darby. So realizing that and knowing that we don't really want to do a recodification, what we're doing is putting this back on the books. So when the next codification happens, within the next 10 years, it'll be here and incorporated in all the ordinances in the codification going forward. So if you may remember, the property maintenance code is essentially a document propagated by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We went ahead and with Mr. McSween and extensive input by council and the administration less than a year ago, we made several Upper Darby specific amendments, which are all included in this ordinance right here. And this is all based on the 2015 property maintenance code. So not only does it regulate how you deal with property maintenance, it deals with fire safety inspections, rental dwelling licenses, and the sale of properties. There is within this ordinance an opportunity to view any of this online. And that is the summary of this ordinance, unless if there are any specific questions that may be new, the council may have related to what's come up since this was passed by council less than a year ago.
Great, thank you. Anyone from council have any questions or concerns? Councilman Gwyn, go ahead.
I just wanted to state that the original ordinance that you're referring to is 3072, which was passed, signed, and approved. So that's what this is, basically today's version of the same thing.
Yes.
That was all I just wanted to get clarified.
Great. Any other questions or concerns? Councilman Wagner.
Question for the solicitor. I'm just concerned to know whether there have been existing citations issued in the meantime under this ordinance? And if so, what's the effect on them, if any?
So I don't know the answer to that. Mr. Rongione could probably get that answer from Mr. McSween. I would, if that was adopted and challenged, this law is not on the books yet. So a savvy defense lawyer or anybody that was challenging this, we would probably have to withdraw the citation.
Okay, thank you.
Quick clarification.
Councilman Gwynn?
If I'm understanding what you just said to us, is that the effect is that the law that was presented, advertised, and signed, and approved by the mayor and everybody else and council is not effective?
Yes.
How? Why wouldn't it
Because
be?
we did codification in the interim, and this was not included in the codification. The codification then, the codification then supersedes, then supersedes all of the prior laws.
So this law happened within the timely fashion to have technically gone into the
It
codification.
should have been in the codification.
But it got missed somehow.
It got missed.
Okay, so then, but there was still a window of laws that we were passing that were not included in the codification because of a particular deadline in order to complete the codification correctly, correct?
The laws that were passed after the codification went into effect were all good. My understanding is this is the only law that was missed. Pretty big one, but it was missed.
November 18th, I thought, or June. Was it?
Solicitor Kilkenny and council, I actually realized that that particular ordinance had not passed. I took the opportunity to go through every ordinance that was passed from January 2020 all the way current to ensure that those laws were included, and they were. So
this was the only one missed. Yeah.
Just want to clarify that.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other questions, concerns? Seeing none, can we get a motion to advertise and introduce ordinance number 3096?
So moved.
Seconded.
So Billups and Sadiq. Any questions or concerns on the advertisement and introduction of ordinance number 3096? Seeing none, all those in favor, or roll call vote, Ms. Billups. Aha, I almost caught myself.
Just for advertisement, right?
It's just for advertisement, doesn't require a roll call, but whatever.
I understand.
Yeah.
Just, if I keep ordinances all on roll call, then I'm
then you're
less likely
good.
to mess it up.
Yeah.
Trying to keep a consistency going. So go ahead, Ms. Billups.
Yes, Madam President. Councilor Tunis?
You're muted. There you are.
He's reconnecting. Councilor
reconnecting.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Councilor Silva?
Yes.
Councilor Blackwell? Yes. Councilor Gwynn?
Yes.
Councilor Burke?
Yes.
Excuse me. Councilor Sadiq?
Yes.
Councilor Faralia?
No.
Councilor Barnett?
No.
Councilor Wagner?
Yes.
And Council President Wentz?
Yes. And did we get Councilman Tunis at the beginning? I know he was connecting.
Yeah, he said yes.
Okay, great. Sorry. Thank you, Councilman Tunis. Great. Awesome. So 9 yes and 2 no.
Yes.
Great. So thank you very much. This ordinance is moving on to the next meeting and will be advertised. Thank you. Next up, we have a Solicitor Richardson. Can you give us a reading of resolution number 1521?
Thank you.
Sewer connections.
So this is a resolution from Pennsylvania DEP, or Department of Environmental Protection, for a plan revision for a new land development. This is just as an overview, this is a sewer services resolution that is provided by the Department of Environmental Protection, which is provided. I can read it for you. Whereas Section 5 of the Act of January 24th, 1966, known as the Pennsylvania Sewage Facilities Act as amended, and the rules and regulations of the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, adopted thereunder, require the municipality to adopt a official sewage facilities plan, providing for sewage services adequate to prevent contaminations of the waters of the Commonwealth and/or environmental health hazards from sewage waste, and to revise.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. No, you keep going. I thought we weren't having this on here. Am I?
Okay.
Or wait, no. I thought 15-21.
No, we
was the
are.
Aronimink.
This is different. This is not the 537 plan. This is the
Right.
sewer module. Mr.
Right.
Galante can comment. Yeah.
Yes, so we're reading the wrong one. It was 15-21 was momentarily the Act 531. And
537
then
plan.
47, and then we pulled it and it became the Aronimink sewer resolution. The Aronimink Elementary.
And that's what we're doing right now.
And that's what you read.
I wasn't completed, however.
I'm sorry, I thought okay, I somehow got the wrong 15-21 in my packet. So it's not a U, I was looking at the wrong thing. So good, please continue. Sorry, my mistake.
Let's see, environmental health hazards from sewage waste, and to revise that plan whenever it's necessary to determine whether method of disposal for a new land development conforms to a comprehensive program of pollution control. And so the school district has proposed the development of a parcel of land identified as Aronimink Elementary School Building Addition, and they have described it in the sewage facilities planning module. I don't know if Mr. Galante has any comment on this resolution, but so ends the reading.
Yeah, this is just a form resolution. Since the Aronimink Elementary School is located within the DCJA sewer service area, and DCJA is under a capacity requirement where they cannot accept new flows without an equivalent I&I reduction. They need to provide a full sewer planning module. So this resolution is essentially that. After this resolution gets approved, it still needs to get approved through DCJA, Delcora, and PWD. This is the first step in their sewer approval process in DCJA area. So essentially that's the resolution.
And just for clarification, DCJA is Darby Creek Joint Authority and PWD is Philadelphia Water Department.
Thank you for the clarification. No, that's good. That was going to be questioned, so that's good. It's the difference between knowing the language and not being in it every day. So, Councilman Gwynn?
I just want to, Mike, you recommend this?
Yes.
You approve it in terms of the form paperwork?
Oh, yes. Yeah. They submitted their estimated flow for the proposed building addition, and we didn't take any exception to it. And like I said, ultimately, it's got to go through an additional approval process since it's within the Darby Creek Joint Authority sewer shed.
Thank you. Councilman Burnett?
Thank you. Michael, I didn't hear what you said about I&I. Is I&I required?
Yes. So we, with any development within the Darby Creek Joint Authority sewer shed, as part of their capacity management plan, they will need to perform such off-site improvements or on-site improvements to reduce I&I, which is I&I for the layman term is inflow and infiltration during wet weather events. So, for example, when it rains, if you look at any of the meters, any of our sewer meters, which are all metered, you'll see that there's a peak that results anytime it rains. And so that's result of leaky pipes within the system, or manhole covers that are accepting water, or so on and so forth. So as part of this project, they will have to work with our office, DCJA, and Darby Creek Joint Authority to develop a plan that's acceptable to Darby Creek Joint Authority in order to obtain their approval. And ultimately, it's going to result in some form of sewer lining off-site or manhole rehabilitation within the sewer shed.
Who will be responsible for the cost of, who will be responsible for the cost of I&I?
That would be the school district or the applicants.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Councilman Gwynn, you've already asked a question. Let's make sure anyone else have a question? Okay, seeing none. Councilman Gwynn.
Just as quick clarification, it referenced in the resolution number an Exhibit A. What is that?
I don't have the resolution in front of me. If you could, I've submitted the form resolution that to the solicitor's office, but I'm not sure what you're referencing for Exhibit A. I apologize.
Sorry, and I don't see that either. Can you refer to the paragraph?
I think the Exhibit A is, you might be looking at the previous version, Councilman Gwynn. I think Exhibit A was from the 537 resolution.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay. It was also relative to Pennsylvania Sewer Act.
Well, they're both sewer related resolutions, so that's part of why it's so confusing.
Okay. Thank you.
Right, so this is the one that I don't know if you can see it. It's a form letter, right? That's the one we're dealing with.
That's standard forms for form resolution that we do for any project that requires full planning with DEP.
So Councilman Gwynn, the reason why you had a snag is because I had the old 1521 stapled to the new 1521. And that's why I was getting caught up when Solicitor Richardson was reading it, and I got confused because it was really the one on the page on the back that we are really talking about. Yes, the other one shouldn't have been there. It was a misunderstanding, but we're all good now. So
thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, great. Anything else? Seeing none. We need to pass this resolution this evening due to the time factor. They need to get this done. So can we get a motion to approve resolution 15-21? Gwynn and Sadiq. Okay, any other questions or concerns? Seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say your name. Ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, so we're at down here and over here. So at this point in time, Councilman Gwynn, Council members Gwynn and Billups, would you like to continue your committee report for the zoning committee?
Okay, anybody on committee have anything for this body? Anybody on council? Anybody in the administration? Seeing none, hearing none, we're moving on.
Great. So next up, we have Municipal Services Licensing and Public Works Committee, co-chairs Councilman Sadiq and Tunis Jr., members Councilman Wagner and Burke. Solicitor Richardson, can you give us a reading of Resolution 16-21?
Thank you, President Wentz. This is a resolution for the Transportation Operations Plan for Critical Corridors. Whereas Upper Darby Township has the authority to enact traffic laws under Pennsylvania law, specifically pursuant to 75 CS 102. Whereas the township is required to obtain Pennsylvania Department of Transportation approval prior to erecting any traffic signals. The township is also responsible for the installation, revision, maintenance, operation, and removal of traffic signals on highways under their jurisdiction. Whereas PennDOT and the township share a common interest in facilitating the safe and efficient management of traffic flow on a daily basis, as well as during incidents. Whereas the township is required to enter into an agreement with PennDOT to properly maintain and time traffic signals for critical corridors, and as a condition of eligibility for financial assistance out of the motor license fund to replace synchronized time, operate, and maintain traffic signals. The township may also enter into an agreement with PennDOT to properly maintain and time traffic signals for designated corridors. Therefore, be it resolved by the authority of the Township Council of Upper Darby Township, Delaware County, it is hereby resolved by the authority of the same that the Chief Administrative Officer of the township or his designee shall be authorized to submit the Commonwealth and Municipal Traffic Signal Maintenance Agreement, either in writing or via electronic signature, to the PennDOT or the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, and to sign this agreement on behalf of the township. So ends the reading.
Thank you. Are there any questions or concerns on Resolution 16-21? It will be moving on to the April 21st meeting. So this is just up for discussion. All right, seeing none. Councilman Siddiq and Tunis, would you like to poll your committee on whether or not they're comfortable to move it forward?
Yeah, I'd like to ask, I'd like to ask if anyone have any concern regarding resolution 1621. Other council person? Hearing none. I see none. I think we should move forward.
Great. Okay, so the resolution will move forward. And then would you like to pull your, continue with your committee report?
Did anyone else have anything in the committee?
Yes, I'm asking, as the co-chair, I've initiated all the meetings regarding resolution number 0421. I'm asking if Chairman Siddiq, if you can step up and schedule some meetings regarding resolution number 0421 so we can get that kind of done somewhere in the near future.
Sure, I will.
Also want to just add at this point in time, if for all the other committees, if you've gotten responses back in reference to the questions that you've posed, results you've got, if you've gotten any results or you got any clarity in reference to your sections of 0421, to please send them on to the Municipal Services Committee so that they can pull them all together. We'd love to get it on the agenda for May. Okay,
sure.
That's our goal, is to get it on the agenda for the committee meeting in May. Okay, so we gotta make some magic happen. All right. Okay, thank you. Okay, so everything, is your report complete?
Yes, I think that concludes our report.
Okay. All right, so next up we have Public Safety Committee, co-chairs Blackwell and Burke, members Tunis Jr. and Silva. First resolution we're going to look at, we're actually going to hold on it. It's a resolution 21-20. I've been working with residents on Chapman Ave on getting petitions signed by enough residents for installing a four-way stop sign between Chapman Ave and Palatine Ave. we were four houses away from completing it as of 8 o'clock last night. So therefore, I've been working with a resident within the neighborhood to get the signatures. So we're postponing it for May instead of dealing with it in April because we did not have the petitions done in time for this evening. Councilman Sunis?
Yes, and I just want to let the public know that Council President Wentz did notify me on this issue. She was able to handle it more, and I was very comfortable with that. And I think that's very important because we have district council people. We also have council at larges, and sometimes I can't always be somewhere or be able to do it. So it's great to have Councilwoman Wentz or Councilman Silva or Councilman Burke or Councilman Billups be able to help us play that role. So I just wanted to say that on behalf of the 7th District.
Awesome, thank you. And actually just getting a message saying that we may be able to move forward with the petition during this month. And so I will check with Alexis tomorrow on that. Since we're only 4 short at the moment, we may be able to get it by the end of this weekend and get our community officer out there to investigate the location. So if we're able to do all those things, do you guys feel comfortable with it moving forward to the 21st of April? If all those pieces fall together before then, fall into place before then?
I think so, Barb.
Okay.
I do.
Cool. The residents would really appreciate it. So if we can make that happen. CAO Rangione, did you want to weigh in? You look like
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Council President Wentz. I just sort of a question or by way of clarification. I think and please correct me if I'm wrong, or solicitor, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the resident petition, I don't think the resident petition is an official policy. I think it's sort of a recommendation, a tradition, but it's not sort of it's not a binding policy. It's not a formal procedure, and it certainly doesn't take into account the PennDOT regulations and other traffic considerations. So I just want to make sure that the residents. I think the residents absolutely should, petition the government for things that they feel are necessary in their neighborhood. I just wanted to sort of clarify that it's not really an official mechanism to adjust traffic patterns.
That's correct, CAO. That is correct. That the petition process is not part of the process in getting some type of traffic issue taken care of. But I do appreciate that it's something that is necessary to have buy-in from the community.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and when I was speaking to the residents, I told them, the petition was the first stage of the process to indicate that there was a desire by more than just one neighbor for any particular traffic, the stop signs, but that it would only be able to happen if the office or our community officer once they come out and check out the site to see if it follows the laws as far as whether it's possible. So that,
Right.
Okay. And it also deals with, they're having problems with parking issues on the corner, which is part of the request for the stop sign. People can't see through the intersection. There's also issues with large trucks and box vehicles parked right on the corners. So whatever would have been the fire code X's on the ground are not really being obeyed. As well as, so the thought is with the stop sign, it would help to make sure people can see before they cross the intersection. There have been accidents there. And so that also, it may also create a certain amount of spacing that needs to be created for people to stop for the stop sign as well. I believe there's a little bit of space that stop signs need to have in order to exist.
Yeah, that's great. As long as they understand that it's just one step in the process. That's
Yes.
all. Yeah, that's great.
Yes, but it's something that they've been asking for, and it has been unsuccessful for whatever reasons. And we're having an open conversation with them on addressing the concerns that they've had. And so therefore it's the beginning of the process. But yes, I mean, ideally we would love for the stop signs to happen, but our community officer has to give it the A-OK before that can happen. So as you know, I talked about that as well at the doors. So, okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. So I will connect, see if we can get all the parts together to make it happen for April 21st. Great, thank you very much. So next up, we have Solicitor Richardson to give us an introduction on Ordinance 3095.
Thank you, Council President Wentz. This is an ordinance of Upper Darby Township, Delaware County, establishing and implementing a program to charge user fees for the deployment of public safety services rendered by the Fire Department of Upper Darby Township for the delivery of fire and rescue services, personnel, supplies, and equipment to the scene of motor vehicle accidents and other incidents on the highways, repealing all inconsistent ordinances or parts thereof, providing a severability clause, and providing an effective date. Whereas Upper Darby Township Council recognizes the need to bill for fire, rescue, and hazmat services conducted within the township to aid in the provision of emergency services. The emergency services response activity to incidents continues to increase. The compliance with the requirements of equipment and training concerning environmental protection and homeland security are costly and create additional demands on all aspects of fire and rescue services operations. And raising real property taxes to meet the increase in service demands would not be fair to property owners. The majority of motor vehicle accidents involve individuals not owning property or paying taxes in the jurisdiction, and the ability of the fire and rescue services to effectively respond increases the liability of insurance companies by saving lives and minimizing the damage. Whereas Upper Darby Township Council desires to implement a fair and equitable procedures by which to collect motor vehicle fees and shall establish a billing system in accordance with applicable laws and regulations and guidelines. Now, therefore be it, and it is hereby ordained by the Upper Darby Township Council and is hereby enacted and ordained by the authority of the same as follows. There's a section regarding fees that shall initiate user fees for delivery of fire rescue services, and that the fee is addressed in section 2 under fee schedule. Section 3 is payment, and the user fee shall be filed with the motor vehicle insurance carrier. And then there's allocation. The allocation is the funds received will be allocated to general fund. There's a severability clause, repealer, and effective date. So ends the reading, President Wentz.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any questions or concerns on this ordinance? I'm seeing Councilman Burke and Billups. So Councilman Burke, go ahead.
Thank you, President Wentz. If the CAO would help me out on the second public comment, which pertains to this ordinance, or Solicitor Richardson, one of the two of you would answer the question to the
Sure.
public comment. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're not actually allowed to discriminate between resident and non-resident when it comes to charging for the services. So that's part of the answer. Additionally, as sort of is mentioned in the resolution, the increasing cost of providing these services and the fact that these services are a little bit outside the general purview of the fire department creates a situation where we have to raise revenue to support the fire service. And Upper Darby, as you know, is a major thoroughfare. We've got Route 1 and Route 3, Baltimore Pike, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of people come in and out of Upper Darby. So it's a significant cost to the township. And many places actually have a dedicated millage, a fire tax to support their fire service. So it's a way to generate revenue to offset costs for the fire service. And yeah, we're not permitted to distinguish between resident and non-resident by law. It would be discriminatory to do that.
Thank you for that answer. President Wentz, just another comment. Our committee did meet with Chief Sawyer and Courtney Richardson. We spoke for about 45 minutes to an hour about this ordinance. Chief Sawyer was 100% behind it. I believe our committee's 100% behind it. The only question I have for Courtney is a couple of the ordinances that we have done. We have the fee schedule in here, but we don't have the collecting agency in this ordinance. Do we have to put that in before we move to move it forward?
No, the collecting agency actually comes from the fire department. They submit documentation and it goes to, Chief Sawyer would probably be the best person.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, no, we don't have to put it in this particular ordinance. So that's a really good question, but no.
Yeah, that was, I forgot to ask that because I know we had to put Portnoy in something, 9 months ago after the fact. And I didn't know if we had to put that company's name in this ordinance. That was my main question.
No.
Thank you, Courtney.
No problem.
Great. Councilwoman Blackwell. I'm sorry. Actually, Ms. Phillips is next and then Blackwell. I'm sorry, my bad.
It's okay.
Phillips and then Blackwell. Sorry, go ahead.
My question is the person, whoever's in the accident and the fire department is coming to the accident, is the person insurance being billed? Who's being billed?
The insurance company, yes.
The insurance company is being billed.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilwoman Blackwell.
So with that said, my question was answered. I just wanted to question that for the constituents. Thank you.
Thank you. And sorry, having cat issues. And then I see Councilman Wagner and then Silva. Go ahead, Wagner.
Thank you. I need to understand how broad this ordinance is or its effect is. Does this apply strictly to motor vehicle accidents? Because I thought I heard the language motor vehicle accidents and other incidents. And if it includes that phrase, that's extremely broad. And I would be opposed to including that anyway. Maybe I misheard it or misunderstood it.
So that's a great question, Councilor Wagner. So other incidents, so for example, it's anything that has to do with a motor vehicle, but it may not be an accident per se. So for example, what if there is a motor vehicle that's broken down on the side of the road, but their gas pump is open or leaks or whatever, they have to come out and do a hazmat treatment. So it's something that is related solely to motor vehicles and only thing that's related to an insurance carrier as it pertains to motor vehicles.
All right, so if a person has a fire in their kitchen, this has nothing to do with that. Am I correct?
That's correct. That would be a completely separate ordinance.
Would you mind, I must have not heard it well, but would you mind pointing out the language in the ordinance which so limits it? Because I'm very concerned about that. So I mean, what language in the ordinance limits it the way you're interpreting it?
Sure. Just bear with me for a moment. I can pull it for you.
Thank you.
On the highway.
It's section 1 fees. Upper Darby Township Fire and Rescue Services shall initiate user fees for the delivery of fire and rescue services, personnel, supplies, and equipment to the scene of motor vehicle accidents and other incidents on the highways.
That's exactly the language.
On the highways.
Correct.
Okay.
And interesting enough, Chief Sawyer and I did have a conversation about extending somewhere else. And I said, that would be another ordinance, not particularly this one. So this one is really limited to motor vehicles and highways and things like that. So
I'm just concerned the language is not limited quite as narrowly as perhaps you're interpreting it, but okay, I appreciate the answer. Thank you.
Okay, we have Councilman Silva. Councilman Gwynn, I see your hand, but you're in the line. Thank you. Go ahead, Councilman Silva.
Okay, yeah, from our discussion with Chief Sawyer, it is my understanding that many municipalities have adopted this, and it's also our understanding that this fee structure is kind of standardized in the insurance companies, that generally, whether or not we're collecting it or not, it seems like this fee is probably incurred in an accident. So it's it would be an opportunity for the township to recoup some of the expenses that are taken by our fire department, and at this point paid for through the general fund and our taxpayers, for basically like real expenses that are incurred by our fire department by responding to these calls. So I hope we move forward and adopt this. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Councilwoman Faralia.
You guys know if this is in everybody's insurance policy?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question,
If you're saying it's for your car insurance, so just say my policy, is that in our policy? Does everybody have that in their policy? And if they don't, are they responsible to pay for it?
So
Like, is the insurance company going to cover that?
Yes,
Yes.
the insurance company does.
Yes.
That's what I mean.
Did some research on that, and I think Councilor Burke also did some research on his own.
Yes, Lisa, just, I called two insurance companies, two insurance agents, and both of them said, even if your car was in an accident and a tow truck had to put oil dry down, there's a $50 to $75 charge that tow truck would normally put down, and they pay it. Something bigger like this, the insurance company, your agent might not see it, but the insurance company, they do pay it. It is in bigger city. This company that does do the collecting, it's a standardized, fee schedule, and that's where they come from. And the insurance companies, you're already paying for this service in your insurance, as far as what I've been told.
You're sure, right? Because if I get in an accident and I have to, my insurance company don't pick it up, you're going to pick it up, right?
Vote against this.
Yeah, so
Councilman Barnett, we can hear you.
that's what I've been told, Lisa. Thank you.
And then Councilman Quinn.
Yeah, we have mutual aid agreements where we end up coming to the aid of some of our surrounding vicinities, and our fire trucks get called to do that. And it sometimes involves traffic accidents, so that will be another area where we'd have it.
So it's Chief Sawyer actually spoke about this in the committee meeting. It's the responding, it's the first first fire department to respond. They're the department that actually will
record.
Correct.
But also my understanding is it has to be within Upper Darby Township. So we don't, even if we're the first responder in a different township or borough, it's that township or borough that recoups that. That it's not us. We only recoup within our township.
Language? I missed that limiting language. Could you show that to me?
So it actually, Councilor Gwynn, would not be included in the limiting language. This is actually kind of above this particular type of ordinance. It's the understanding between the fire departments and how that works. I hope that clarifies.
No, if I understood what Laura was saying, is that even if we were the first responders to an accident, let's say that happened in Millbourne, as the fire company going there, well, maybe I used the wrong example.
Well, we have a contract with Millbourne, so we do cover Millbourne, but we don't cover Haverford. I mean, in theory, Haverford Township Firehouse would be the first responder, and we would be the second call or third call to support them. But it's the first call, whichever the firehouse is the first responder to any accident or motor vehicle related issue within the township, is the one that has to file the report first. And then all the other houses that respond are the secondaries and third of the reporting process. So we have to make sure that our firehouses are very good at reporting all vehicle-related responses so that we can recoup the funds from these fees through those calls that they answer.
Yeah, I know the fire department's been very good at giving us reports as to what activities they have had during the month. Usually it falls in the month following. But I'd be interested to see how they relate to this.
Gotcha. Well, we can ask Chief Sawyer. Well, we'll see the difference. We'll see, you know, because we get the reports anyway. So hopefully we'll see an increase in the reporting process if anyone hadn't been reporting well.
Thank you.
This is an incentive to report, right? So I see Councilman, I'm sorry. Wagner, you've already spoken. Just want to see make sure. And then, so Councilman Bonnet, you're next.
Thank you. Obviously, in most cases, there are multiple vehicles involved in an accident to which our fire service would respond. What are the mechanics of assessing who is responsible to make the payment for the apparatus and the equipment? Excuse me.
I think, Councilor Bonnet, from my understanding of the process, is that the information gets submitted regarding the accident. I believe the insurance companies actually end up working that out, whoever is going to pay, if they're separate insurance companies. So I believe based on kind of the fault, if there is fault, I think that's the conversation that they have between each other. So I'm go ahead.
Will we actually bill all parties, all companies involved?
We don't bill.
No.
Pardon?
We don't do the billing. There's a collection company that does all of that, just like our other collection agencies that help us with that. And they incur the cost, and there's just a small fee percentage that goes to them.
What happens if they do not pay, if there's a disagreement on responsibility?
In that particular case, it would, I mean, that's kind of how the insurance companies would work it out. I mean, so it would probably be an outstanding collectible until that particular issue was resolved.
So we have no mechanism in place at this point to pursue it beyond that point?
The collection company or whoever we decide to so. So at that point, once it goes to the report is submitted to that company, they would work it out with the insurance companies or not, and then they will pursue their own remedies. So
who is the collection company that the township is considering?
It has not been considered. I would definitely, CAO Braglione, have you decided?
No, not yet.
To be determined?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else have any questions or concerns? Okay, Councilman Wagner.
Thank you. Just in follow-up to a couple of questions that were already asked, I have to say I'm very uncomfortable with this, and I'll state why. I have a lot of personal experience dealing with insurance companies. They vary widely, and I mean widely, in their practices. Maybe some of them will cover this, maybe a lot of them will cover it. It's my belief that at least some and perhaps a lot will not. I have to point out too that it stands to reason a majority, at least, of the people who would be in accidents that come under the purview of this statute would be Upper Darby residents. I wouldn't be comfortable with this, at least unless this ordinance was amended to say that if the charge is not covered or paid by insurance, the township will not seek it'll be the policy of the township not to seek recovery directly from the individuals involved. And I'm sure we can't discriminate as to whether or not they live in the township or not, but as a practical matter, it stands to reason that a majority of them will. I don't want to see us making these charges directly to our residents at all. I don't want to leave open even that possibility. So I'm suggesting that this be amended to foreclose that possibility.
President Wentz, just to add to that, we receive no money unless the agency receives their money from the insurance company. At this ordinance and the company that wrote this fee schedule, if we don't get money, if they don't get money, we won't get money. So I don't believe we'll be going after anybody as a township. It's the actual company that set this fee schedule that's in Pittsburgh, that's in bigger cities that has this program. So I don't believe that the township will be hiring somebody to go after this because we're working with a company that has this program and they pull all the reports from the fire department. Am I correct on that conversation, Courtney, that we had?
Yes, you are correct on that.
Thank you.
If I may, Brian, I appreciate that. But what about the collection agency? Isn't it possible that they will be seeking to recover directly from the individuals involved if their insurance companies decline to pay it? They're working on our behalf.
Well, the collecting agency is not working on our behalf right now, Tom. It's just the company that has this fee schedule that is basically like a third-party insurance company with your codes. When you go into the doctor and you're basically insurance, second tier insurance company says, well, we're going to allot this and allot this. That's it. We're not saying that we have a collecting agency right now. It's the actual company that performs the task.
I guess what I'm really asking, Brian, is will anyone be seeking to recover this directly from the individuals involved if their insurance declines to cover it? That's really what I'm asking.
And that's a great question. So, Courtney, I would have to have you answer that one because it's not what we spoke about at our committee meeting. Or did that come up? Because I thought that if they don't get money, we don't get money, more or less.
So Council Wagner makes a very valid point. We could add a line in the ordinance itself that says that that if you don't have insurance coverage, we're not going to seek reimbursement from the individual. And I think that's probably the best thing, is that if the insurance company denies, or that insurance company either denies or that they don't have insurance. So there's two scenarios that we won't seek reimbursement individually. I think that would answer the concerns that Councilor Wagner has. Would that address your concerns, Councilor Wagner?
Yes, I think it would. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. Go ahead, Don.
I'm
wait,
done.
yep. Actually, we have, sorry. Hold on. Sorry, cat's sitting on my notes. Councilwoman Feralia is next. Or wait, did you? No, Miss. Oh, sorry, you already went. I saw. Making sure I follow my sequence. Councilman Gwynn, you haven't spoken yet on this. So you did. Wait, all right, we're like repeating. Councilwoman Phillips. Councilwoman.
Yes, thank you, Council President Wayne.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so thank you. So just from experience, I was in a car accident, and not only was my health, I didn't have car insurance, someone hit me, but my health insurance was charged. So I don't know, Courtney, if that's something that they may do. That may be another avenue, Councilor Wagner, that may happen. So if the person doesn't have car insurance, to the person's health insurance.
I think we're only limited based on the scope of this particular, because it's specifically, I think we are limited to motor vehicle insurance, but I don't know if the CAO or Sean has clarity on that particular aspect, but I'm pretty sure we're limited based on, but I do understand what happened in your particular situation.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my experience. And also too, with Councilor Wagner's point about, narrowing the scope on the which sources of revenue or reimbursement are we going for. In practicality, I don't think it's probably necessary, but it doesn't hurt to go ahead and put that in there because I don't think the township in reality or a third party would be going after not easier, deeper pockets, but you never know. So if and when council wants to move forward on this, we can add that provision in, and that can be considered, and we can just include that in the motion to advertise tonight if that's what council chooses to do.
Okay. Great. And then Councilman Silva, did you have a question? Or statement?
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't seem to lower my hand, but yeah, I was actually just going to see if we could maybe move forward and call the question about advertising.
Can I get my question asked?
Technically, he asked to call the question. Council. So we need to call the question. Okay, so Solicitor Richardson, are you able to put together something for that language? Or pretty close.
There'll be a
to
motion to advertise the ordinance with the additions of Courtney. One, you summarize again what the suggested language would be.
So like suggested language would be that in the event that there is no insurance coverage or no insurance coverage or the insurance company refuses to pay, that the township will not seek reimbursement from the individual.
Great, thank you. So with that amendment to the ordinance, can we get a motion to introduce and advertise ordinance number 3095?
I didn't get to ask my question.
And neither did Councilman Gwynn, because we had to move the question. So
There was a motion. You have to see that there's a second.
right, you can ask the question on the advertisement. So is there?
Yes, I would like to make a motion, please.
I would like to second it.
Sadiq and Hafiz. Sorry, Tunis. Are there any questions or concerns on the introduction or advertisement, the amendment to the ordinance, the introduction of the ordinance as amended, final wording coming soon, and the advertisement of the ordinance? Seeing none, are there any questions or concerns? What I just said? No. Okay. Ms. Phillips, can we get a roll call vote?
Yes, ma'am. Councilor Tunis?
Yes.
Councilor Phillips is a yes. Councilor Silva?
Yes.
Councilor Blackwell?
Yes.
Councilor Gwynn?
Yes.
Councilor Burke?
Yes.
Councilor Sadiq?
Yes.
Councilor Faralia?
No.
Councilor Barnett?
Yes.
Councilor Wagner?
Yes. I'm sorry, yes.
And Council President Wentz?
Yes.
No.
Gotcha. Thank you.
10 yes, I'm sorry, 10 yes and 1
10
no.
yes, 1 no. So this will move forward as for advertisement and will be voted on the 21st. And we'll get the final wording of it beforehand.
Councilwoman Wentz?
Yes.
I just have one quick question. As it now stands, we don't collect anything. from, because we don't have this. So if we weren't collecting money before, it's no different.
That's correct, Bob.
Right.
Thank you.
And since you asked your question out of sequence, Councilwoman Feralia, did you want to ask her question since Councilman Gwynn opened the door?
Yeah, my question, and maybe it was already asked and I just didn't hear it, was that, is it just for the Upper Darby residents, or if it's anybody that gets in an accident?
Any vehicle that gets into an accident in the township of Upper Darby.
Okay, that's it. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, so next up, Councilman Burke and Councilwoman Blackwell, can you finish your public safety report?
Shit is so fucking long. It's 10:10.
Thank you, President Wentz. Does anybody from the committee have anything to bring forward tonight? Seeing none. Anybody from council have anything to bring forward tonight? That concludes our report. Thank you, President Wentz.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Danielle.
So next up is Public Health and Environmental Affairs Committee, co-chairs Tunis Jr. and Silva, members Billups and Sadiq. Solicitor Richardson, can you give us an introduction on ordinance number 3097?
President, this is the ordinance of Upper Darby Township amending Chapter 222 Animals in the Upper Darby Township Code to add a new Article 5 entitled Domesticated Chickens, allowing residents of Upper Darby Township to keep no more than 4 female chickens, requiring residents to obtain a permit in order to keep said chickens, imposing certain regulations and requirements for keeping chickens, and imposing penalties for violations of such regulations. Now, therefore, it is hereby ordained and enacted by the Upper Darby Township Council as follows. Section 1 provides the addition of the new Article 5 of domesticated chickens. Section 2 provides for the definitions of chicken run and hen house. Section 3 provides the purpose. The purpose of this article is to provide standards for the keeping of domesticated chickens. It is intended to enable residents of the township to keep a small number of female chickens on a non-commercial basis while limiting the potential adverse impacts on the surrounding neighborhood. The township recognizes that adverse neighborhood impacts may result from the keeping of domesticated chickens as a result of noise, odor, unsanitary living conditions, and unsanitary waste storage and removal, the attraction of predators, rodents, insects, or parasites, and non-confined animals leaving the owner's property. This article is intended to create standards and requirements that ensure that domesticated chickens do not adversely impact the neighborhood surrounding the property on which the chickens are kept. Section 4 provides that there's a permit required. Section 5 requires the initial permit fee and the renewal fee. Section 6 provides the number and type of chickens allowed, specifically stating that no male chickens or roosters are allowed. Section 7 provides the requirements for the keeping of domestic chickens. Section 6 is composting. Section 9 is permits. Section 10 is penalties and enforcement. Section 11 is repeal or severability, and 13 is effective date. So ends the reading.
Thank you. Are there any questions or concerns on ordinance 3097 for discussion for the committee? I see Councilman Gwynn. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had desire to make sure that this ordinance also contains limitations such that the chicken coop and chicken run is kept other than the front yard. And keep in mind that corner houses have 2 front yards, so neither of them would be eligible for that. And the other aspect is the size and dimensions of the chicken coop and chicken run. I do not know what would be too small of a facility for it, as well as what size are we limiting it to. We have various requirements for other buildings in the township, and I think we should also have it for this. So if you can specify a reasonable size and limitations, I think that should be addressed in it.
Solicitor Richardson, do you have? Okay.
No. I mean, I think that may be a question for the committee that may want to discuss that, and they may want to have a conversation with Director McSween or one of the animal control officers of the township. So that may be a conversation for them.
And I don't know what would be cruel and inhuman to or inhumane as far as the size of a chicken coop or the chicken run. I don't want to make it too small. I don't want to have it too big.
Gotcha.
The Health and Environmental Committee could certainly look into that concern. We actually, other council members have reached out with other similar concerns, and we'd certainly like to review that before the 21st. And then, yeah, I mean, I agree. We certainly don't want to, you know, create like inhumane conditions or anything. And we certainly don't want to, you know, so yeah, we certainly would like to have the Health and Environmental Committee meet and discuss that. Thank you.
Okay. And then I see Councilman Wagner. Go ahead.
Okay for me to proceed?
Yep, go for it.
I know the hour's late, but I just don't understand why we're picking on chickens. I mean, the township paid a lot of money to bring in a whole herd of goats.
Like so.
Okay, anyone else? Councilman Sadiq?
Yeah, I'm agreed with Matt Silva, Mr. Matt Silva, that I think before 21st, we're gonna have our committee meeting one more, and we'll go more further, and then we'll act on 21st.
So question to the solicitors, since we don't have the answer to the question that has been posed at this time, can we do a understanding of amendment on specifications for that, and then get clarity on exactly what those specifications are, and still do a introduction and advisement at the advertisement at this time? Or is it better to postpone it to the next month to make sure we have solid clarity?
I would suggest you probably postpone it to the next month and really have some clarity. I think it just may make the process easier, but that's council's call.
Okay. Councilman Silva, what are your thoughts?
I'm sorry, Council President Wentz. I just want to be sure. So you're asking for size, Councilor Gwen, size, and not to have chicken in the front yard.
No chickens or chicken coops or chicken runs in the front yard.
And size.
And then the size of the chicken coops, and the size as a max, and the size as a minimum.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilman Silva?
Yeah, okay, certainly. Sure, maybe to kind of answer Councilman Wagner's question, if there was a question there. Well, this is sort of an equity issue, right? Because the previous ordinance required that people had an acre to have an animal, and that's very limiting in Upper Darby Township when so few people have that. And I know of many people personally that would be interested in having an animal for a multitude of reasons. So not just for food creation purposes, but also for like education or you know, there's other reasons why people would want to do this. So this is primarily, I think, more of an equity issue for me. But to be, I would be, I guess, amenable to like waiting until May to if just hammer out the details as far as locations of coops and whatnot. And again, we're not trying to rush in something that's not correct. I would prefer to have, an ordinance be. So I would be okay with waiting a month, I believe, unless any member of the committee feels different about it. So.
I'm fine with waiting for a month.
Oh, okay.
Until we can hammer out the details.
Okay.
Councilman Siddiq or Councilman Tunis, would you be okay with that as well?
Yes, I'm fine with that. Let's make more discussion. And also, I also want to know that, are we discriminating that male chicken, the rooster? Why not they are there?
That's a noise issue.
They make a lot of noise.
Yeah, not everybody wants to wake up at 5:30 a.m.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no problem.
It's good to know.
I have no problem waiting.
Okay. So we will hold this over till May so that we can get some more clarification on the wordings on the size of the coops, run of the coop, and location of the coop within a yard. Okay.
All right, thank you.
I'm fine with that. Yes.
Okay. Okay. And then Councilman Silva and Tunis Jr., would you like to finish your Public Health Committee report?
I don't really have anything I would have preferred Councilman Silva took the lead.
Okay. All right. Does any other member of the council have anything to bring forth to Health and Environmental Affairs? Any members of council? Any members of the administration? All right. Well, hearing none, I believe that concludes our report. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next up is Leisure Services Committee Co-Chairs Tunis Jr. and Silva. Members are Faralia and Blackwell. There are no resolutions or ordinances for this committee at this time. So if you guys want to go on with your committee report, go for it.
Is there anyone from the Leisure Service Committee or anything to bring forward? Okay, is there anyone from the council?
I just wanted to hope that everyone comes out to all the different cleanups that are happening around our township this weekend and beyond. The month of April, because of Earth Day being in it, is a massive environmental cleanup month. So please come out and take part. There's going to be cleanups in probably every district in the township on this Saturday, as well as others in different parts at different times. So please take part.
Hey, Hafiz, I would like to make a comment. Hafiz?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, summertime is here. So I know it's a pandemic, but still people making groups, small group, and they want to go to the park and recreation places to enjoy with their family. So how our park and recreation department working on that one? We are ready to welcome our summer.
Are you asking if there are going to be permits provided to people wanting to do outside events at the parks? Is that what your question is?
Not really. How are we prepared to get ready the park for the people? Like a small group of people sitting there and enjoying. So our park is ready to, all the park is open for the resident.
CIO, are the parks open technically?
Yeah.
Officially?
Yes. So the governor has lifted a lot of the restrictions, and there are COVID plans and COVID contingencies required for permit applications. But our parks and parks maintenance crews are out working and have been out working And we are getting ready for summer. It's not going to be like a pre-COVID summer. We're still, rolling out vaccines and trying to mitigate things. So it won't be exactly like back to normal, but it'll be much closer than last summer.
Sure, that's all I want to know. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything for this committee? Seeing none. Okay, so safe to say that leisure services is all good to move on?
Yes, leisure services good to move on.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so next up is the event planning committee, co-chairs Phillips and Blackwell, and members Tunis Jr. and Silva.
The events committee is finalizing our second virtual job fair. We are working on the vendors, and so we should have a date for you guys very soon. So anyone from the committee have anything else to add? Anybody from council?
I just wanted to thank you for your fabulous honoring of the Women's History Month and Black History Month this past winter. And thank you to Councilman Tunis for the creating of those images of all the women. So thank you.
Yeah, great job, guys. Anybody else from council? I think that's it, President Wentz.
Okay, great. So next up, solicitors, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We've had a busy night tonight, with many ordinances and resolutions that our firm has been working on. Look forward to continue working with that. That is really, I know the hour is late, so I don't want to belabor a report, subject to any questions any council members may have.
Any questions or concerns for our solicitors? Seeing none, old business. Anyone have any old business?
I have one.
I see Councilman Gwynn. Go ahead. You gotta turn on your mic because I probably muted you.
Excuse me. I did have one. I was trying to get in for the solicitors. Just thought I'd ask for the update on St. Eugene's.
St. Eugene's, we have an appraisal back. We have conveyed that to Mr. McBlain. In the interim, we're working on a phase 1 environmental to make sure there are no environmental concerns with the site. If and when there are no environmental concerns with the site, hopefully, then we'll be moving forward in an agreement of sale.
Thank you.
Great. Anyone else for old business?
It's me.
Councilman Siddiq.
Anybody have any update regarding the Powell Lane and Market Street? The grant we getting and anything?
So the CFA, the Commonwealth Financing Authority, the grantor in this case, actually delayed their meeting on consideration of the applications. So we're really just in a waiting pattern. We have been doing our due diligence and working with our state representatives and state senators to make sure that they're advocating with the CFA on our behalf. And we have been told by all of them that it's a high priority, and they have been in contact with the CFA and the DCED. The CFA is part of the Department of Community and Economic Development. So we're doing everything we can, but they delayed their meeting. So we haven't had a final decision from them yet.
So there's any possibility that they can deny it, or?
Oh, sure. I mean, it's a very competitive process, and there is a possibility that they would choose not to fund it. We have already started to open up some other possible avenues to fix the intersection if that happens. There's a federal transportation bill that we've started to work to try to get the project potentially included in as a backup plan. So the administration is thoroughly committed to seeing the intersection or the sidewalk fixed there. If whether it comes through the CFA grant or some other means.
Thank you.
Sure.
Councilman Barnett, and then I also see Councilwoman Blackwell, but we'll go with Barnett next.
Thank you, President Wentz. I have a question on procedure for Solicitor Kilkenny. Solicitor, when a council person calls the question, isn't that effectively a motion to cease debate that requires a vote?
Yes.
And therefore, in the future, we should be doing that.
In the future, if someone calls the question, is there a second to do so, and there should be a vote on that? Yes, that would be the correct way to do it.
Okay, thank you. That answers my questions.
So back to my question regarding
So
the
wait,
rating.
I'm sorry. Also wanted to clarify, in the discussions we were having, there hadn't been a motion on the floor as of yet. We were having a discussion on the ordinance as a committee before actually making any motion. And the motions were actually, in most situations, were for motion to advertise. So that's kind of why we were in the informal mode of the committee discussion of the ordinances or resolutions. And that's why I didn't necessarily do an official vote for the calling of the question. I have done it in the past, but in this situation, because there wasn't already a motion on the floor on any specific item, is why I did not do it.
Actually, if I'm not mistaken, debate should not proceed until after a motion is made.
Actually, we're doing two parts of the realm. We're doing our committee meeting part, which is where the discussion is happening on what the wording is of an ordinance or resolution. If we don't have that discussion first on the wording, then once the official introduction of that ordinance takes place, then no comment or changing of that ordinance can happen without that initial discussion, until the public hearing. So we're doing a informal committee discussion on the ordinance or resolution prior to the actual formal introduction, first introduction and motion to advertise the ordinance. Once we are in that mode, we cannot make changes to it at that point in time.
I heard the word said, I call the question.
Yes.
And then debate ceased. All I can say is, I believe that requires a second and a vote.
Okay, I'll make sure to follow it to the letter in the future. Okay. All right, sorry, Councilwoman Blackwell, go ahead.
Okay, so is this the right time? I had a question regarding, and I wanted to thank Vance regarding the rating. And if just for the public or for the constituents, could he just elaborate a little bit more about what that rating means for Upper Darby and for the constituents?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So the rating is similar to what an individual household or person would experience as their credit rating. It's an assessment of the township's creditworthiness for the purchase or for the acquisition of the bonds. So it's a marker of our fitness to be able to repay our debt. And the township previously had an A+ rating, and we were able to maintain that A+ rating with a stable outlook, both of which, frankly, our financial advisors had told us to expect a possible negative impact, a possible downgrade on our rating because of COVID impacts on revenues and because of some of the findings in our audit, et cetera. So we were very pleased that we were able to present a strong case to the rating agency that Upper Darby is every bit as creditworthy as it's ever been, if not significantly more. So that's what and the thing is, if it goes down, right, if it goes from A+ to A, so on, we end up having to pay a higher interest rate. The same way, if you have a low credit score, you would end up having to pay a higher interest rate on your car loan or your mortgage. So that's the way the rating affects our debt and our purchasing power.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, any other old business to bring to the table? Councilman Wagner, go ahead.
Just briefly, I agree with what Mr. Rongione was just saying about the importance of an A+ credit rating, and it's something this township has enjoyed for years, and years. Many other municipalities have not enjoyed such a rating and don't now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other old business to bring to council? Okay, seeing none, new business. Councilman Barnett, is that new business or did I hop too fast?
No, it's new business.
Okay, go ahead.
As I said, I would bring it up under new business back to the Pilgrim Gardens Senior Center being closed. If it is in fact that it was closed due to COVID, and if in fact the Watkins Center was under the same restrictions, when can we expect the Pilgrim Gardens Senior Center or a senior center located in a nearby facility to be reopened for the community? Because as I recall, we had such a need and as such a demand for senior services in this part of the western part of Upper Darby that we were ready to expand it and in fact double the size of it to meet that demand. So I can't imagine that demand has ceased to be. And if the administration is not prepared to answer that tonight, which I can understand, I'd like to open a dialogue on that as the district council person. And I'm sure Councilman Wagner, who shares a nearby district that also his constituents were served by this particular senior center, would be willing to engage in a conversation about it as well. I don't mean to speak for you, Tom, but I think that we have had previous conversation about this. And even Councilwoman Feralia and her constituent base from the 2nd District would be well served by this particular facility. It has been well served by this particular facility. So I'd like to ask the administration to give serious thought, and perhaps we can open up a dialogue on how we can reinstitute a senior center for our seniors that would be more conveniently served on the west side of town.
Yeah, sure. So oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. It's
Thanks.
directed to you. I can't answer the question, so it's all you, man.
So at present, there's no specific timeline or plan for reopening the senior center at Pilgrim Gardens. I think what I would say is that an analysis of the data available to the administration doesn't actually support the idea that there's demand enough to double the size. I think what's most important from the administration's perspective is that we're absolutely committed to providing programming and services to seniors throughout the township. And so the question is, do we require multiple physical locations in order to provide that service and programming? And I think that's sort of the operative question. So we've maintained the staff and we're trying to expand our program offerings and create ways to bring programming to the seniors in every neighborhood. But I think the pandemic has really put a different light on those sort of physical, indoor, congregant kind of facilities, and raises a really serious question about whether they are a good idea and whether they are the best way to provide programming and services going forward. So, yeah, I think that will all be part of the conversation that you're suggesting.
Okay, Councilman Silva.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so for my piece of new business, I would like to say for the Delaware, or to the Darby Creek Valley Association's 37th annual cleanup, which is going to take place on April 10th. In 2 days, I have the pleasure of captaining the Swedish Cabin site with, and in partnership with the Friends of the Swedish Cabin, who will also be assisting there. So I would love if anyone's available, would like to join us from 9 to 11 on Saturday, April 10th. Look forward to seeing you there, and thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have new business? I'm just going to throw in, Councilwoman Blackwell is having a cleanup on April 17th. I will be posting the flyer on our Township Council page in the very near future. And I'll also make sure that the all the link for all the different cleanups that are happening on this Saturday, the 10th, is also on our Township Council page. Okay, I'm seeing no more. Thank you. I'm seeing no more new business. So at this point in time, can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, Blackwell and Sadiq. And all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say your name. Thank you all, you guys rock. We adjourn at 10:42 p.m.